21st, 2021 meeting of the Humboldt County Planning Commission. And has been the case. In accordance with AB 361, the Planning Commission meeting will be held virtually until further notice. And with that, I will call the meeting to order and ask you to join me in a salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Laura, a roll call for commissioners present.
Alan Bongio.
Here.
Thomas Mulder. Noah Levy. Mike Newman.
Present.
Peggy O'Neill.
Here.
Brian Mitchell.
Present.
Melanie McGaver.
Here.
Thank you, Laura. It looks like we have at least a quorum, so we will continue on. Maybe others will join us later. Director, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, we do. Item number E3 originally had the project description in it that was modified on Friday, so there is no problem with that. We also have a number of supplementals, some of which are requesting continuances. There's a supplemental for item number F11, Redwood and Farm. There's a supplemental for item number F7. The applicant wishes to continue this project to the next Planning Commission hearing. So that would be a continuance to November 4th.
7, you said?
F7, yes.
Humboldt zone?
Yes.
That's continued to what date did you
November
4th.
4th.
Thank you.
There's a supplemental for item number E1, the Mcguire coastal development permit, and this has a revised condition of approval. Item number F5, work solution, request a continuance to a date.
Item number F5, you say? That's Brandon Nolan. What the one?
Let me,
You said it was solar art, and that's not, item number 5 is not. There's that F5.
use F5.
Oh. Well, that is F5. Okay. I'm sorry, I was looking at E, not F. And that's continued till.
That's continued to a date uncertain. And that we'll need a motion on that. There is some correspondence expressing concern with approving any additional cannabis cultivation permits. And then item number F3, Humboldt Holistics, the applicant has withdrawn that this has requested this application be withdrawn. No action is needed on that. There is no longer an application to be considered. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Director. Through the chair, Director Ford mentioned Humboldt's own being continued to, I think, the next agenda. I just wanted to clarify if that was item E7, because my understanding is that was not requested to be continued. So I just wanted to clarify if that was Humboldt's own that was being requested for.
The director said that that one was continued to November 4th.
Okay. Well, did we receive a supplemental or something like that? I'd been in contact with them earlier this week and had not heard that.
There's a supplemental on that.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Was F11 also one?
11, yes, it was continued. I just have continued, not to any certain date, but.
And that is Redwood Valley Farms?
Yes. Is that
I'm
too?
sorry, F11, we had just a supplemental on that. I didn't see that was a.
Oh.
That's
Oh,
not a continue.
I wrote down continued. I apologize. I was trying to keep up with you.
Yeah, no, sorry. We provide a revised resolution and public comments on that.
Okay, is that everything?
That is everything.
All right. Well, we have, as you can see, a lot of items on our agenda tonight. So let's see how much we can get through. So at this time, we will have public comment on non-agenda items. So anybody who wishes to speak on any item that is not on tonight's agenda, this is your chance. And I see we have 2 hands up. The first one is public 7454.
Bongio, can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing, Ken?
Ken Swatsky, I'm going to give you folks a little bit of a history here, and I'm going to do a lot of apologizing for what the county's actions have been. Originally, there was a measure brought forward with Measure S to tax the people that are being taxed into non-existence now. I did write the opposition to that. I'm not going to say I told you so to the people who said taxes, taxes, taxes. And I believe that was your Growers Association. Now Linda Laff was leading that sure thing. We want to be taxed and we want to be part of this. It was structured in a manner very corrupt, in my opinion. You will find that the earliest permits that went through are mostly permits for supervisors, friends of supervisors, Rex Bone, anything hooked up with, I think Trevor Bowen was brokering deals out of Rex's office is what I was told. And of course, this comes down to exactly what you saw probably be if you watched the last supervisors meeting, where you had a very good small little ask of, I think Lasik Farm was the thing, where they had to have 50% the water storage. And of course, that you guys were overruled. That was a unanimous decision you made in your wisdom, and you split the baby then. But of course, I think Trevor works on the project, Trevor Bone. So Rex went to work there and they overturned your wise decision you made. I don't know how that makes you feel, but I would be a little bit irritated, to have those kind of things happen for political reasons and financial gain of family members. And then, of course, what we had was John Ford was brought in. In his opinion of most people in the public, his main thing was to go ahead and provide tax through Measure F and promote the permits of the supervisors and their associates that they had behind that they were backing. I don't know if you people understand, but Measure S, one of the first things that happened was the supervisors and all the department heads in Humboldt County were rewarded with a 10% pay raise package. The other employees got 2%. So that's how your tax money was being spent. And of course, that put a big smile on all the supervisors and the department heads. So they basically were bought and paid for. The definition of an honest politician is they stay bought. And now I'm going to apologize for those of you who've been strung on, spent all your money. Hopefully you've saved up enough to find some other job or something to go to as cannabis falls apart. The fact that you're last people standing here shows that you probably didn't do your due diligence, or else staff slow played you and basically enabled the supervisors, friends, and family to have first foot in door back when this started, get all the connections, all the money, and we'll just see how that karma plays out. So that's my perception as far as what's happened politically here. You have some very dishonest people there in your planning commission, led by John Ford and Cliff, and they don't have to stay with the truth. They can stray from that at will. Thank you for my opportunity to speak today, and you have a good meeting.
Thank you, Kent. Next caller is public 7429.
Hi, good evening. This is Roby Tenorio, and I would like to thank you again for your actions at the last meeting of initiating and beginning a discussion and perhaps a reevaluation of the cannabis industry's impacts on our neighborhoods and our communities. I also really appreciate very much that the Planning and Building Department will begin to gather data on the groundwater extraction and the expansion, large expansion of wells. Fortunately, there is a very straightforward solution at hand to address the potential negative environmental impacts of the new groundwater extraction, and that is storage. Storage is already required for diversions, and the county has the option to guide applicants to long-term sustainable practices that are good for the farmer and good for the rest of the communities, human and wildlife. The county could help also with engineering expertise on developing rain catchment ponds. So I'm sorry that the supervisors overturned your requirement on the farm that you did require half storage, but staff also did not support your actions. Groundwater extraction in the upland areas of our watersheds is a new environmental impact, and it has really increased quickly. So the impacts of this expansion are not known, and the safest approach would be to require storage. Also, I noticed in the staff reports that I'm not seeing included the number of harvests an applicant plans to have. It used to be included, and perhaps I'm just missing it, but it was really noticeable before, and now I don't see it at all. And I continue to see staff reports that say applicants under the 2.0 only need 80% renewable, but the ordinance says electricity must be exclusively renewable. Also, I'd just like to share really quickly an observation in Garberville. The PG&E station which is a feet away from the new library and sheriff's substation, has been really expanded. It's enormous now. This expansion happened at the same time as the census information informs us our population has decreased. So I'm wondering if that expansion is for cannabis, and which would be the exact opposite direction we need to go to address climate change. We need to look at how we can reduce our electrical needs. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Ruben. Next caller, 7108.
Hi, this is Buddy Blackberry. I just want to comment the last meeting about the creation of maps and charts showing where the wells are domestic and ag, and where the cannabis grows are permitted and interim or whatever. And there was some concern about not wanting to give that information out for the public, that they can use it as a treasure map. And I just want to say that information is already in the public. It's on the county websites, it's on Google Earth, and you can just drive down many county roads and see these hoop houses and farms. So also the county divided the county into 12 watersheds for the caps of marijuana operations, and those watersheds could be used. You could do a map for each watershed. You could have little dots or symbols showing where this stuff is, and I think that would be very informative for the Planning Commission and the general public and everybody to get a better idea, along with how much water's being taken out in these specific watersheds for what purposes. A lot of information that would be really helpful to make informed decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there any other public that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and come back and start on item number E, old business. So the first project is Mcguire Coastal Development Permit in the Fields Landing area, and I would take a staff report, please.
Good evening to the commission. This is Logan Shine with Land Logistics. Can you see the screen, full screen?
Well, I can see all of it, but he's got a side screen too.
Hey, Alan, did your volume go down a little bit? Because I can barely hear you.
Yes, we turned it down to get less feedback.
Hey, Logan, you've got your display screen showing, not the, or.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I am. That's my output.
And how is that?
It's the same.
Okay.
It's showing the next slide as well as the current.
Okay. How about now? Is that any better?
It's the same.
But I think it'll work.
Hey, Logan, it might have opened it up as a full presentation on another screen if you're using two screens.
Yes. So,
There it is.
There we go.
okay, thank you. Thank you for that. We'll get moving here. So this is the Mcguire's coastal development permit for the demolition of an existing 1,700 square foot residence, existing fence, and the construction of a new residence. Now, the area that is going to be removed is highlighted on this site plan. It is 1,700 square feet, and it is also very close to the easement line. The fence that is proposed to be demolished is actually in the road easement. The replacement is and the new construction is a proposed residence, 788 square feet on top of a 788 square foot garage, connected to the existing shop of 960 square feet, which is already technically a two-story structure. This would be the view of the project looking from West Avenue toward the southwest. And this would be the view from Central Avenue looking northeast. Now, this is in the Humboldt Bay Area plan as residential low density. The density of the units allowed is 1 to 8 units per acre, and the current lot size is non-conforming to the local area, but it's at 0.08 acres on a relatively stable slope. And the general plan use is residential single family 5. This project would be exempt under new construction or conversion of small structures with CEQA guidelines. And I'm available for any questions.
Just like that, Chair, if I could, just add the supplemental tonight imposes an additional condition to require that the demolition associated with this be accomplished within 60 days. This is part of a code enforcement action. And so the demolition of the existing house and fence will address that portion of it. We're not setting a deadline by which they need to build the house, but just get the demolition done.
Thank you. Go ahead, Thomas. I see you got your hand up.
So question, this partial and plot plan seems familiar to a project that's been before the Planning Commission before. Being as it looks like we might actually have a wet fall, I'm personally uncomfortable with the 60-day timeline. It's just remembering all of the past testimony from, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's how I feel in my heart. So just throwing that out there.
Any other questions for staff or anything before we open this up for public? All right, I'll turn my volume up again now.
Alan.
Yes.
So when Thomas was saying 60 days, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying there, Thomas, or asking staff. What are you asking?
I was asking a question of staff before we went to public comment, being as it looks like we might actually have precipitation in the fall, which is not normally anticipated the last few years. If there is a way to go outside of 60 days, I know this has been there's history with the partial, but just
where is
maybe
that?
start within 30 days. I don't know. I was just throwing that out there.
Are you asking about the demolition?
Yeah, the requirement for within the 60 days is to demolish the existing house. And we did struggle internally a little bit with the time frame, in all honesty. Part of the struggle here is that this has been going on for quite a while. As the commission is aware, you have seen this before. And we felt that in order to bring closure to this before the true wet weather season set in 60 days would be better than extending it out and expecting the demolition to be done during the dead of winter.
So my question is, I'm looking at the supplemental, number 1. And I think I see under A5, it's struck out and then replaced with within 30 days.
Looking at it right now.
So it's within 30 days, they have to submit the application for a demolition permit to the county. And then within 30 days after issuance of the demolition permit, the demolition needs to be completed.
Okay, so it's just further, I guess, putting that more emphasis on getting it started right away.
Yes.
Within 30 days for the demolition permit, and then another 30 days. Okay, so it's just another way of looking at that 60-day time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions for staff at this time? If not, I'm going to open it up for public comment and then bring it back to us. Okay, so I'm going to open up public comment. The first is Mcguire. Go ahead. First caller is
Yeah.
Mcguire. R6. There you go. Oh, I'm muted for a second.
Yeah.
There.
What I'd like, I've been on this project for like 7 years, and it seems unfair that all of a sudden you guys want me to tear this thing down in 30 days type of situation. I'm going to dismantle it, and I'm going to be working directly with the building department. And if I had to dismantle this thing in 30 days, it puts me homeless in the middle of winter. Like I can just say, this project's been going on. I've been asking for a permit for years, and now it's down to where finally the county's going to get what they want. I'm not too happy about that, but I'm going to do it conforming to what their plans would be. The 30-day time limit. I'll dismantle this according to what material I'll be using, as opposed to just tearing it all down. It seemed kind of like unfair or not. I mean, I was an engineering contractor. I know how to do these things, and it would be conforming totally with the building department and working with them directly. This thing would be built in a timely manner, but I'd like to dismantle it as I would be more comfortable with the situation in the sense of the material, not just lying there and a big pile of material sitting there. It's all new material. This thing was permitted, and it was all up to code. So the material that I'll be dismantling, as opposed to just tearing down, will be all graded and everything. I mean, it's good material. And I would more time to, and we are now, the weather today, it just shows you that the weather truly could be very detrimental to me becoming homeless at this point when I'm trying to build this thing, have been trying to build it. So I'd be asking for just more of an open end, work with the building department as we go through the project. And I will do everything they ask me to do, and it will be done in a proper manner, very businesslike. So I'd appreciate it if I could just have an open end on this dismantling, and if somebody doesn't like it, then we could deal with it then, change the plan or something. So if I could have a little bit more time, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there any other public that wishes to speak? All right, seeing no hands, I'm going to close the public comment and bring this back to the commission. I have a quick thought. Oh, go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Chair Bonjo. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that the existing house that's going to be demolished has been posted do not occupy. So this is not a house that anybody should be living in.
A quick thought on this. It would have seemed to me that if they're issuing permits on this, going into the time frame that we are, part of it is going to be issues with sediment and erosion control if they're doing any construction this time. So I would think building is already addressing those issues. I don't have a permit in front of me and everything that goes along with this, but I'm going to assume that now that we're past the October 15th deadline, that there's a whole new set of rules that play into any project that you take out this time of year. So I would think that they are addressing those issues. Any other thoughts? Mike, I see your hand up.
Yes, I have a question for staff. When did this last come before us to the commission, and what was decided at that point to bring us to this point? I remember something about it being an ongoing problem, and had been going on for years, as the director did state. But I'd like just a quick refresher about what date did this last come to the commission, and what was decided to do at that date in time when we had that meeting.
This was last brought before the commission approximately a year ago. I don't recall an exact date. Forgive me for not having that. And the request was to approve a coastal development permit to allow the existing house to remain. That was denied. That coastal development permit was appealed to the board. The Board of Supervisors also denied that, but obviously did not want to see anybody be homeless as a result of this, and want to know if there were options to allow a house to be built on this parcel. And so this is being brought back really as part of that overall effort to allow the parcel to support a residential structure. Obviously, due to the presence of the house, the location within the floodplain, and an area subject to sea level rise, the first floor of any structure would not be habitable here. So the proposal is to have a 2-story house, the upper story be living space, the lower story a garage and use for storage.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to talk when I was muted. How long has the house been red tagged basically to where it was not supposed to be occupied?
I could look that up, but it's been several years.
It's not a recent development.
No.
It has been some years.
Yes.
And the owner has been living around there on it, in it.
He shouldn't be living in it.
I remember something about that before when we were meeting on this, that was again discussed that should not be occupied. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, Commissioner Newman, I just have pulled up the staff report when it came to the Planning Commission last. It states that this has been in the code enforcement process since 2004 with health and safety violations for this residence, and that none of those were resolved.
Thomas, I see you have your hand up.
Sorry, I had to double click to unmute. So I apologize. I didn't see this supplemental because I was at the end of the attachments of the late email. So the way I read it is within 30 days of this approval, and if they decided to appeal to the Board of Supervisors, it said the appeals process. Within 30 days of that, they have to apply for the demolition permit, and then once the demolitions permit is issued, would be 30 days out. How quick of turnaround are demolition permits?
Can be done over the counter.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thoughts? Where do we want to go with this one?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of this item as amended by the supplemental staff report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? Seeing none. Laura, a roll call vote, please.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Melanie McGaver,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Alan Bongio, Noah Levy, oh, I'm sorry, he's absent, Thomas Mulder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Motion carries unanimous. All right. That takes us on to item number 2. The Macross Land Company conditional use bid in the Newland area. Staff report.
Chair, if I could, I believe the applicant has requested a continuance for this one also. And Mr. Mack, correct me if I'm wrong, but the continuance was to the next meeting, to November 4th?
Partially correct. So the item was noticed incorrectly in terms of the amount irrigation water used. So the item needs to be continued, I believe, to a date uncertain, but it has been re-noticed for November 4th with the correct irrigation usage numbers.
Should we do it to a date uncertain or to November 4th?
You can do it either way.
All right. How about we do
A motion to move this item to the November 4th meeting.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on that? All right. So I have one attendee with a hand up. I'm just wondering if I could allow.
That's Mr. Mcguire.
Oh, okay. So we have a motion second. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, Laura, roll call vote.
Thomas Mulder,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Melanie McGaver,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Alan Bongio,
Laura, motion carries unanimous. That brings us to item number 3, which is Aloha Top Shelf LLC conditional use permit.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
Is it possible, you seem really soft. I don't know how the public is hearing you, or because I've turned my volume up quite a bit.
As well.
Is
I don't know
there-
why it's different tonight? It's the same computer I use every week or I don't know. Josh is coming around right now. We're gonna see. I apologize. I've moved it up and up and up.
Well, that was
I
a
just-
little bit louder right now.
When he's stuffing his face right now.
That's because I'm yelling. They're saying. Testing. I'm not yelling now. Does that sound better?
Well, move back a little bit.
That sounds
There
better?
you go.
Can
Now
you hear
do
me
it.
now?
Yes,
Let's go
that's
with
better. That's better.
All right, sorry. So, Aloha Top Shelf LLC conditional use permit in the Willow Creek area, and we'll take a staff report, please.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. Just a second as I bring up my presentation. Okay, are you seeing my slideshow?
Yes.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Megan Acevedo, and I'm the assigned planner for Aloha Top Shelf LLC. Aloha Top Shelf is applying for 3 conditional use permits and 3 special permits, and 1 notice of merger on 4 separate parcels located within the Willow Creek Community Planning Area. Here is an image of the location of Aloha Top Shelf and its proximity to Willow Creek. The project is located northeast of Willow Creek, just across the Trinity River, and is located off of Hillcrest Way, which is a county-maintained road. Here is an image of the 4 subject parcels, 2 of which will be merged to make a 1.63 acre parcel. The parcels are all zoned agriculture general and have a land use designation of residential agriculture. The applicant is applying for 3 conditional use permits for a total of 10,250 square feet of mixed light cultivation and 2,250 square feet of indoor cultivation within an existing structure, and 1,260 square feet of ancillary nursery space on 3 separate parcels. The project will utilize a total of 250,000 gallons of water per year. That's 18.17 gallons per square foot per year. And the applicant has a will-serve letter from the Willow Creek Community Services District allowing up to 280,000 gallons of water to be used per year for agricultural purposes. No water storage is proposed and none is required. Full processing is proposed on site in a new structure that will be ADA compliant, shown in red. Power is sourced from PG&E, and the applicant is required to provide 100% renewable power for all indoor cultivation related power uses or to purchase carbon offset credits. The project is within the Willow Creek Community Planning Area, and odor mitigation controls will occur within all cultivation related structures to mitigate odor pollution. 3 operators are proposed to live within the 2 residences located on 2 of the parcels. The mixed light areas are shown in orange. The indoor cultivation area is shown in yellow. Drying structures are shown in blue, and the ancillary nursery greenhouse is shown in green. The applicant is also applying for 3 special permits to reduce the 600-foot setback to Six Rivers National Forest. The closest cultivation area to the Six Rivers National Forest is approximately 350 feet away to the edge of the Six Rivers property line. There are no parks, picnic areas, campgrounds, trails, or other recreational facilities located within 600 feet of the proposed projects. Here is an image of a 300-foot setback to the nearest cultivation-related structure to neighboring residences. The applicant has ensured that all cultivation-related structures are 300 feet away from all neighboring residences. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the project consistent with the mitigated negative declaration adopted for the commercial medical marijuana land use ordinance, make all required findings for approval of the conditional use permits and special permits, and adopt the resolution approving the conditional use permits and special permits subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That ends my presentation, and myself and staff are here to answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Megan. Is there anybody who has questions for Megan? All right, seeing none, I will open this up for public comment. Is there any public that wishes to speak on this item? 7108. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Hi. Yeah, I just had some questions looking on the agenda. All the numbers that were given are different. It didn't say anything about PG&E. It just says electricity is provided through 1 generator. And it also said water storage totals 25,000 gallons. So that's number 3 on the agenda. That's what's on there. And they're getting water from Willow Creek. Here it says irrigation water is sourced from 2 existing groundwater wells, the permitted stream diversion. So this is very confusing for me. I hope somebody can clear it up. Thanks.
Sure. I think Megan wants to respond to that. Go ahead, Ms. Esteta.
Okay,
so the agenda was prepared incorrectly, and the project item number 2 was put in twice. And we did correct that on Friday of last week to update the correct project description. And the original agenda that went out for the October 7th hearing date did have the correct project description.
Thank you, Megan. Next caller, Kent.
This seems to be a continual reoccurring thing where we have major errors in this. I don't know how we can have a functional county government and how you can have any kind of a confidence or credence put to what staff's doing when you have these kind of major errors on an ongoing basis. Things change. Again, we've asked continually that these things be agendized with a standard format so that we can follow what's happening. And yet we totally get ignored. I think it'd be easier for all of you to have that, where you can just look down there and see what your concerns may be without having to read the whole staff report. It's kind of like nobody wants us to really know what's going on. Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. So I will continue to voice that concern. I will also make the statement, as I've made many times before, and of course staff may lie to you and say that these ancillary uses are permitted and they were studied and they are allowed and they were studied under CEQA. And they can continue to do that all they want to, but as far as we know, this ruins the credibility of your staff when things like this are proliferated on an ongoing basis, along with all the errors that they make on these reports. Thank you for my opportunity to speak this evening.
Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak on this item? North Point Consulting Group, Inc.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just wanted to let the commission know that the North Point Consulting is representing the project. My name is Praj White, and we're here to answer any questions. The two things that were brought up, I want to clarify the project is 100% on PG&E and renewable power. And we've been working with staff on this project for 3 years and feel that we've put in a good working relationship and feel that staff clearly has an understanding of the project. And we look forward to seeing the project move forward tonight. If there are any questions, I would like to have the opportunity to rebuttal or answer any questions from the commission. So I'm here this evening if any other comes up.
Thank you, Praj. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and bring this back to the commission. Does anybody have, while Praj is with us, does anybody have any questions for him? Would be really a good time. But Thomas, you have your hand up, so go ahead.
Mine are for staff. Do you want me to go now, Chair?
Go ahead, Tom. Yeah, go ahead.
So two things that I heard from the public, and I just want to clarify these with staff. The printed form may be incorrect that was originally mailed out, like what I have, but the Humboldt County Legislator online, I believe, is correct. I just double checked it, and it was within the 72 hours, well before the 72 hours. And according to what I believe, that's the legal place that we have to post agendas. So I don't think we need to be concerned, but if we do, please correct me. And then as far as project descriptions, I've been looking at other areas, and it seems like the project descriptions are as brief and minimal as possible. So that way people read the executive summaries and the other staff reports with projects, and that's kind of, I don't see anything that isn't consistent with other areas. That's just two things. That's it.
Thomas, anybody else have any questions? Or?
I'm prepared to make a motion whenever others have had their chance to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Brian. Doesn't appear anybody else has any concerns. So.
Okay, I'd like to move approval of the item with the wording of the motion as stated in our staff report.
A motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Laura, roll call vote, please.
Thomas Mulder,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
Yes, I'm trying to get it down to mute.
Melanie McGaver,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Alan Bongio,
Yes. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Laura. All right, that brings us to item number 4. Karina Mata conditional use permit in the Willow Creek area. Take the staff report, please.
Okay. Good Good afternoon, or good evening, Chair Bongio, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Alec Barton. I'm a planner with Harrison Associates, and I'll be presenting this project. The project is located on Highway 299 in the Willow Creek area. It's zoned agriculture exclusive with a residential agriculture land use designation, and the parcel is approximately 21 acres in size. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit for 17,585 square feet of existing cultivation, which consists of 7,705 square feet of outdoor cultivation and 9,880 square feet of mixed light cultivation. Plants are propagated in immature plant areas totaling 2,650 square feet. The source of irrigation is a permitted groundwater well, and the applicant anticipates using 115,500 gallons of water per year, which equates to about 6.6 gallons per square foot of cultivation area. Water is currently stored in 10 tanks totaling 25,000 gallons, and drying occurs on site in a 625 square foot auxiliary facility with further processing off-site. Just some information about the well, because I know that's been of interest to the public. The depth to static water level is 42 feet. The depth to first water is 46 feet. Total drawdown is 94 feet, and estimated yield is 15 gallons per minute. And the source of electricity is currently an on-site 7 kilowatt generator. Here's the site map indicating the location of the cultivation areas on site, as well as the propagation areas and the permitted well in the center of the parcel. The well is located approximately 150 feet away from the buffer of the nearest spring. Staff have recommended a number of conditions of approval for this project. There are some unfinished documents that need to be completed, including the site management plan and lake and streambed alteration agreement. We've conditioned the project to complete those documents within 6 months and submit to Humboldt County, and then to abide by any corrective actions that are noted within those reports. Because the immature plant areas total more than 10% of the project area, the applicant has also been conditioned to reduce the size of those areas to 1,760 square feet. A biological report that was completed for the project suggests that the applicant should comply with requirements for surveys and heavy equipment use, and then there are standard conditions of approval related to the inadvertent discovery protocol and access to the site. After analyzing all available documentation for this project, staff has found that the project is consistent with the impacts identified and adequately mitigated in the original mitigated negative declaration. The project as conditioned results in no significant adverse environmental effects beyond those identified in the MND. And staff would recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to allow the continued cultivation of 17,585 square feet of cannabis cultivation at this project site. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Alan? Oh, go ahead, Peggy.
I have two questions. One, when they indicate that they have a well that is 15 gallons per minute, what document do you rely upon to verify that? And the second question is, on the PG&E, it says that they will do it as soon as financially feasible, which could be never, because it's pretty expensive. I don't know how far away they are from an existing line or what that cost is going to be. So I don't feel like that's very definitive, and all their power is dependent upon the 7 kilowatt generator. So those are my two questions.
I believe that in response to the first question, we rely on the completed well log, the well completion report. for that information. And then the project, I believe, has been conditioned to move to a different source of power by the end of 2024, start of 2025, as we've done for other projects that are using generators.
So when you say you generally rely upon, does that mean you can say, yes, we saw that verification for this project?
Yes, we do have that document for this project on file.
And it was prepared by who?
Give me just a moment and I'll be happy to pull that up.
Okay, thank you.
Condition 9 says that they have to have an alternative source of power prior to December 31st, 2025.
It up right now, I think, still, but thank you, Melanie.
The well completion is page 61 in our packet.
And the report, just for clarification, was filed with, it's the form that's filed with the Division of Water Resources.
Does that answer your question, Peggy? All right. Melanie, you have your hand up, and then Thomas, you'll be behind her.
Yes, I was wondering if there had been any changes in terms of conditioning the IPAs or allowing for larger IPAs. I remember there was a discussion a while back about it. But I was just wondering, has that been standardized, the 10% from the last time we discussed it?
10% has not changed. We have not deviated from that.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas, you're next.
So, a couple of things, I guess. The 10% is for all cultivation projects. Is that correct? 10% immature plant area?
That's what I was.
That's what I heard. But then the other part, the generator thing. This is just it's a 7 kW generator. Unless I'm unaware of the CMM LUO being changed, there's technically no restrictions for generator use there. These are, you have to remember, Ordinance 1.0 or the CMM LUO is the first to come forward. So I guess what I would say, if this project is approved the way it is, could the applicant petition appeal to the Board of Supervisors to have that condition removed?
Yes.
Answer all your questions, Thomas? Okay. Anybody else before we open this up for public? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go and open up the public comment now. And it looks like we have one hand up. Kent. Go ahead, Kent.
Yeah, it took a little while to get the prompt for them to unmute me here. I did wish, with due respect to Thomas Mulder, who I do respect, the short descriptions that you have there are just fine. The problem the public has on this report and every single other report is that sometimes we don't get a packet. We have to download sometimes 130 pages. And that's not a convenient thing to do with some technology these days. We don't have paper. And so this is a request on this kind of, this project and all other projects that we are able to download the executive summary separately. So that's all we need to see, rather than having to sit there for 30, 40 minutes sometimes while the computer does what it does. That would be greatly appreciated as far as something, and then I really don't care how short your things are, being like other counties or whatever. That's a suggestion from the public. I think it'd be best for all of us on this project and the other ones. I did have, I really appreciate Peggy's questions and your other comments there. The generator thing and any of these restrictions, you folks have the ability and authority to put whatever you feel is in the best interest considering current trends and current situations on this. You're not limited strictly by what's there. You can be very creative And when you are, that's greatly appreciated by those of us who consider the environment to be more important than profit. I just thought I'd mention that particular topic at this time. Another question regarding water. You asked some questions, but you know, if this well was drilled and tested during a period such as March, such as was tested in that last project the supervisors moved forward with, that isn't necessarily what that water is during the year. And I would request that that you consider initiating a policy regarding well testing. A follow-up test be done during the time period later, let's say before the rain start. And that is the figure you should be using as far as should somebody have been required to forbear, not just because a well is extremely functional at 15 gallons. It might be 0 gallons when they need the water the most, or just a trickle and be sucking the sponge dry. So those are some practical comments. And maybe that's a question your staff could answer for you if you chose to ask them for it. I ask you too, is when was that particular well test done? And I think that's a very relevant question regarding water consumption and well usage.
Is that it, Kent? Thank you. All right, next caller, Bonnie, 7108.
Hi, I was glad to see the numbers for the immature plant area was corrected. I do have questions about the well, but the big thing here, this is what I would call a generator grow. And it's needed for the mixed light, and it's needed for processing to take place. So, yeah, I'm not into generator growth, and I don't think they go along with the county trying to cut down on the carbon. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next caller is Karina Mata. Go ahead.
Hi, Planning Commissioners. This is Patricia Lai here with Karina Mata, the applicant on this project. And just to let you know that we're here in case you have any follow-up questions, and we're available. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for them since they're on right now?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. One of the public speakers asked when that well testing was performed. Was it during the rainy season or not? And does the applicant have any information on that?
I have that information in front of me now. It looks like it was measured on June 26th, 2020.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to close the public comment then and bring this back to the commission. So, any further discussion on this, or does somebody care to make a motion?
I just want to bring up the topic of water storage. This one didn't seem to have a lot of water storage. And I guess for staff, how do you know, that this amount is enough?
Because the project is not diverting water from a surface diversion, it's a groundwater well, and it's a permitted well. The applicant is not required under the ordinance to provide additional water storage. I know that some previous projects, applicants have agreed to provide additional storage as a condition of approval. But the 25,000 that they're currently providing is not less than would be required by the ordinance.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Somebody, Peggy, go ahead.
So when these power is going to come on with PG&E, I think there should be some interim dates. I mean, before you can have PG&E power, you have to pay for the design, and then, they schedule and all that. So it seems like there should be some interim dates that they have to meet. Like they're in the design process, they've given, they require money to do that. And that's showing that you're progressing and not waiting till, to 2025 and then going, PG&E can't get around to it, because there's, scheduling can take a long time, design, and then they give you a cost estimate. So, maybe that's something that we don't have to address here, but I think it should be addressed internally, that there are these benchmarks created to get power, and that you don't just wait to the end and go, well, looks like it's going to be 2030 before I get this done.
Thanks, Peggy. Thomas?
So generator use, it's just a problem for me. One day it would be nice to have the appropriate discussion where in regards to the ordinance, it's very challenging seeing conditions put on projects that I feel are undue financial burdens on a project that is fairly, a 7 kW generator is fairly small. A house, typical household, they run a 15, or we've seen 10 to 25 kW generators. And I'm just going to tell you, every time we make this generator comment, we're firing up 20 lights out indoors. Every time we make you're deterring someone to come from coming forward with a small cultivation, and you're firing up 20 lights that's burning at 25 kW 24/7, maybe even as big as a 45 kW. I feel that small generators, which is under 50 horsepower, you don't have to register with air quality. We should really, really pause and think about that before we put these kind of conditions. That's it.
Thank you, Thomas. Anybody else? Where do we want to go with this one then?
Chair Bongio, I'd like to make a motion to find the commission has considered the addendum to the adopted mitigated negative declaration of the commercial CCMLUO as described by section 15164 state CEQA guidelines, make the required findings for approval of the conditional permit, and approve Karina Mata conditional use permit as recommended by staff, subject to recommended conditions.
I'll second.
Thank you, Melanie. Your motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Laura, roll call vote, please.
Melanie Mcguire,
Yes.
Alan Bongio, Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Thomas Motor,
I'm going to say yes to the project moves forward, but I recommend appeal.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Laura. All right. Usually we take a break right around now. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue with the next item, item number 5. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're to item number 5, Brandon Belanzija, conditional use permit. I apologize, in the Alder Point area on that one. I don't think a staff report, please. Zika. Planner on this one?
Thank you. Is my screen available?
Yes.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Cameron Perchio, and I'm presenting the Brandon Belanzija conditional use permit. The project is a conditional use permit for 13,350 square feet of existing outdoor cannabis cultivation in 4 light definition greenhouses, which do not utilize any artificial lighting. Ancillary propagation occurs at a licensed off-site facility. Drying, harvest, storage, and processing would occur on-site. There would be up to 6 people on-site during peak operations, and power will be sourced from PG&E. There is currently no cultivation occurring on the subject parcel as there is not a valid interim or state license. Irrigation water will be sourced from a proposed groundwater well. Historically, water for irrigation was provided by a point of diversion. Planning staff determined use of a well will reduce reliance on surface waters. Conditions of approval require the applicant to demonstrate the well is hydrologically disconnected from surface waters prior to use for a well for cultivation. Existing available water storage is 18,000 gallons, with conditions of approval requiring increasing storage to meet the annual demands of 195,517 gallons if it cannot be shown the well is hydrologically disconnected from surface waters. Access to the site is via a driveway off Northview Road, via Rancho Sequoia Road, via Alder Point Road. A road evaluation report indicates that the roadway can accommodate the traffic generated for this project. Rancho Sequoia Road is subject to 3- and 10-year improvement plans required by the State Water Board and CDFW. The applicant is currently a member of the Rancho Sequoia Road Association. Conditions include requiring the applicant to adhere to any improvements required by the road evaluation report and to maintain membership in the Rancho Sequoia Road Maintenance Association. This slide is showing an aerial image of the cultivation areas on the subject parcel. Cultivation areas are shown in green, water storage in blue, and structures in orange. Planning staff recommends the Planning Commission find that the Commission has considered the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration, make all the required findings for the conditional use permit, and based on the evidence in the staff report, approve the Brandon Blanzia project subject to the recommended conditions in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff from the commission? I have one question since I don't see any other hands. In your report, it said PG&E will be the source of power. In the staff report on our agenda, it says proposed PG&E agricultural connection. So that's a little different. It's saying that there's a proposed PG&E connection. You were saying that the power was from PG&E. It sounds like it's just a wording, but I think that, Peggy brought it up on the last issue. Maybe, if they're that close, they should get a will serve letter or something from the whoever the power provider is, in this case, PG&E. To show that they're in good faith that they're pursuing that. So that's just a thought. Peggy, I see you have your hand up, so go ahead and ask them a question.
So on the proposed well, they're not required to produce a well when they come in, and if they don't get adequate water from this proposed well, they have to do forbearance. I heard the word forbearance, but I didn't really, it wasn't really clear. So why aren't they required to do the well first, and what happens if the well doesn't pan out?
So basically what we've done is conditioned it based upon the fact that the existing water source is diversionary. So if they dig a well and it's demonstrated to not be a diversionary source of water, meaning it's not drawing from surface water, then the well is a groundwater well and can be used as such. But if the well is, for whatever reason, determined to be connected to surface water, then it will be treated as a diversion, which is what they're currently doing, and they will be required to forbear.
But what if the well is just not much of a producer and it's not going to be able to keep up with their water demands? It may not be, under influence, but it's just not going to have the capacity. I've had a lot of wells not turn out, very well, and I've had to drill 5 or 6 of them and still not get anything. So what happens then? They just do the rainwater catchment?
They would need to find an alternative water source that would be suitable for the amount of water that they need, yes.
So what happens in the meantime? Like this just, they don't get to cultivate while all this is going on, or?
Correct.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm going to open this up for public comment then. See if there's anybody who has any comments. Kent, go ahead.
I strongly applaud the questions regarding wells and PG&E. I think technically, if with the testimony you had from your commissioner there, Peggy, that it shouldn't just be a will serve letter, but they should actually have to make application. If you have a deadline 2 or 3 years down the road, that application should be conditioned upon being made prior to being allowed to go ahead and enter into a growing season, so that they can make the deadline. Otherwise, not doing their due diligence is a little bit disingenuous to just say it's going to happen in the future. You give them a date, and then, like Peggy said, it just doesn't quite happen. So I think those should be some standard policies you need to discuss and develop regarding those particular topics. Back to the well issue again. This, with all the wells you're having here, you have other diversionary things, but this technically is a new project. At the supervisors meeting, if I recall, the testimony from John Ford was that they had an existing well, and it was not to be a new project because the well was directly tapped into the same right beside it. Apparently the person on LASIK had not done the permits required to get a well, and that was brought forward by Mike Wilson, Supervisor Wilson there. And so there's so much when you're putting whatever 15 or 16 new wells out there without assess the cumulative impact of dealing with that and not actually being the water source that was existing back when this project's brought forward. Your term existing seems to have a hell of a lot of latitude toward it, and all kinds of things like increasing your vegetative plant thing. I guess that's your ancillary. We renamed that one possibly. I did wish you to be aware that I was unable to attend this 9 o'clock rubber stamp meeting for projects. But in the past, that 10% as far as ancillary was totally thrown aside in meetings I had. And that was an ongoing process that was being done in the back room by Cliff and John Ford there. So those kind of things, you need policies, you need everybody to adhere to them. Otherwise, you don't have consistency. It's unfair to some people to get backroom deals with more space than other people. And these policies and procedures and protocols are something that's going to make it very easy on you, very easy on the applicants, and it's going to also make it very easy on the lawyers who already have. You're a ham sandwich. That's what Rex Bone says regarding all these things. When you don't follow SECA, when you go ahead and make all these major changes, and actually the county's under litigation right now on that on one of your grows there by NEC, a very responsible environmental group headed by Larry Glass. So thanks for the opportunity to speak. You just keep straining and straining and pushing the limits, don't you? Bye.
Yep. Public 7429. Star 6.
Hi, this is Roby Tenorio. So although this is an existing grow, we have to remember that most people inflate the existing number, but this is existing and they never developed any storage at all. And now it's a proposed well and it's proposed PG&E. So I would suggest that I would propose that water stored from the winter to use in the dry season be required, and a will serve letter from PG&E.
Okay. Thank you, Lily. Bonnie, 7108.
Hi, I guess I want to echo what other people have said. Here we have this coming before the Planning Commission with the proposed well and a proposed getting PG&E, I would think that you would wait until you had those things cleared up before coming to the Planning Commission. And Alder Point, this is southern Humboldt. There's just not as much water down here as there up north. Really looking forward to seeing how many other wells are in the area. And yeah, so this to me is kind of like an incomplete project coming before you. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public that wishes to speak on this topic? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment. I'm going to bring this back to the commission. Any further discussion, questions for staff? No? I got some thoughts on this one. Thomas, your hand came at the same time. I'm already started, so I'm going to go. I agree with the last caller's comments that I think that if you're going to do this project, the well needs to be there so that we have something to base our decision on, because right now we're just saying they're going to drill a well. We don't know how much that well will produce. So we don't know how much storage they should have, et cetera, et cetera. PG&E, the same thing. It's got to be more than we're gonna hook up to PG&E. It's a very difficult process, and we're even starting to hear the rumblings that their PG&E doesn't have service to provide in some areas. I haven't heard anything in this area, and I want to be clear. I've only heard that that's in one area so far, but if it's in one area, my guess is it's coming to a neighborhood near you too, because it's all part of the same grid. So there's probably going to be problems in other areas. And funny, the issue that I have with this one more than anything is the road condition and the distance it is off the public road, and the, this road self-evaluation and all that. It shouldn't be out there. This is a commercial project. It should not be out in the middle of the hills. So that's my thoughts on it. Go ahead, Thomas.
So a couple of comments. I noticed I share your concern, but I believe to meet CEQA, we have to approve the project with the well. That's why I was seeing, I believe if I'm reading the finding one, they have to put in the storage for the whole forbearance period if the well is deemed hydrologically connected. So I think if we approve it the way it is, we're covering ourselves for protecting the environment. I'm looking at some of the pictures here, and you see, a lot of woody debris and some, by approving this project, that means that all that environmental cleanup's going to be able to take place. So I'm in support of that, because it would be nice to see that cleaned up rather than abandoned. I share concerns about water and well water changing from diversionary to well water, but I think there's a condition in there to protect the citizens and the county to follow CEQA. As far as the PG&E thing, it goes back to that generator thing. The CMM LUO is you're allowed a generator. PG&E is well backed up. You could spend years and years and years trying to get it all worked out and work with easements and all that kind of stuff, and having to have a permit jammed up in the county for months, not moving anywhere. So it's a long process. So I think how backed up PG&E is, and then subsequential possibilities that could happen when applicants try to get PG&E applications. I think it's really challenging for us to put a timestamp on that. And I'm just going to share, as far as the road evaluation, there was when I was on Project Trellis, there was a huge road evaluation report when they were putting together that road maintenance association out there. It documented all of the damages along those roads in the Rancho area. And I think it's a really good detailed report that is with a plan to repair all that environmental degradation. So I think approving projects out there is going to help improve the environment. But that's why I'm leaning towards approving it because in long term, short term, maybe not, but long term, it'll be better.
Thomas, Melanie, you have your hand up.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was wondering if perhaps staff could maybe remind the public and everybody as to what happens when the applicant has to go to the CDFW for their stream alteration agreement. Because if you look at the water resource protection plan that was provided to us, under section 5, water storage and use, it's checked no, not in compliance. So they will have to pursue that because, as the report points out, there's very little there in terms of water storage. It's mainly surface water at the moment. So if perhaps there could be a little bit more clarity for the public in terms of what happens with a case like this after it gets approved or not by the commission.
Shot at. So basically, in order to get a state license, a permitted cultivator must be in compliance with all fish and game regulations and all water code requirements. And if they are not, they do not get a license from CDFA.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And so I feel like a lot of our concerns often, they're valid, and I agree with the commissioners on this one. But we do have to keep in mind that the applicant has to pursue this streambed alteration agreement and, work out a lot of other things after this with CDFW, and that may or may not be successful.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. Any other thoughts on it? All right. Well, where do we want to go with this one?
Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Chair, I'd like to move to adopt the resolution to find the commission has considered the addendum to the adopted mitigated negative declaration for the CCMMLUO pursuant to section 15164 of the state secret guidelines. Make all the required findings for approval of the conditional use permit and approve the Brandon Billingidzia, okay, I doctored that one as well, project as recommended by staff subject to recommended conditions.
I'll second that.
Thomas, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Laura, a roll call vote, please.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
No.
Brian Mitchell,
No.
Thomas Mulder,
Yes.
Alan Bongio,
No.
Melanie McGaver,
No.
So the motion failed. And I guess they have the option to bring to the supervisors if they want.
So basically what the commission should do is to try to craft a motion that would pass. And that motion could be if the desire of the commission is to not approve the project, to adopt a motion of intent to deny and direct staff to bring back findings supporting the denial and identify the grounds upon which this is being denied. Another thing that could be going on here is that if the commission wants to see the well drilled or a test well drilled to see what the actual water supply would be, to continue it, to allow that to be done. It really is up to the commission at this point to see what the concerns are, see if the concerns can be addressed, and to adopt a motion that may pass.
I would be in favor of having something brought back where everything was in compliance in terms of the water requirements.
I've seen a lot of applications come forward and they've gone to great expense. I don't know, I'm not saying this one hasn't, but they've gone to great expense to overcome a lot of issues so that their applications get approved. And it just feels like with this one, it just came too soon and they didn't really have it complete application. And I don't really go along with the, I was doing everything wrong in the past, so you've got to permit me so that I can fix my, issues. I think you need to show good faith. And, there should be some parity between applications and what we require of one and another.
You have your hand up.
So this is just a clarification with staff. If the project was approved with maybe a modified condition in regards to water, it sounds like maybe they would like to see more water storage or something like that. Maybe I'm mishearing it. If this project was approved in whatever fashion, in their post-approval agreement, they're going to sign that they can't cultivate until there's a state license. Is that correct or incorrect?
They cannot cultivate without a state license. That is correct.
So by approving, if this project was approved in some fashion, it's moving it down the road of environmental compliance, and it will have to meet those thresholds and those standards that I'm hearing fellow commissioners concerned about before there can be a plant on site. And that's the part that I'm wanting to make sure we all understand.
Through the chair, if I could, to confirm what Commissioner Mulder is saying, that this would be a provisional permit that is intended to bring a site into compliance with the CMM LUO and to give an applicant time to undertake that effort.
Mike, you had your hand up, then Melanie.
Yes, and Thomas took away my thunder there as well. I have to agree with him completely, that this is to bring it into compliance. This is what this whole thing is about. They can't grow anything. They cannot put any plants in the ground until certain conditions are met. So I don't see the problem with not having a well drilled right now. I'd like to see this done and moved forward. We've got conditions built into this approval here on this permit. So I'm just baffled as to why it was denied.
I do want to clarify something, Chair. Is that this is existing. Mr. Johnson, do you know, do they have an IP with a provisional state license? Cameron saying no.
If I may, there's currently no interim or state license, and there is no cultivation taking place on the site.
So we have conditioned it that these compliance measures need to take place before they can begin to cultivate? That's an affirmative yes.
The head nod means yes, right?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry.
Melanie, you have your hand up, and then Peggy after Melanie.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. The reason I brought up that issue was because that's my understanding as well. They do have to comply with what I was concerned about anyway, Section 5 in the Water Resource Protection Plan. But it does seem as if in the past, the commission has preferred to see some level of effort that has been made toward that Section 5 compliance before coming before the commission. And so I think the concern is valid that they seem to be quite behind in meeting the Section 5 requirements.
Melanie, Peggy, go ahead.
We already voted on this, and I feel like, we're trying to lower the bar so low that, just everyone come in, we'll permit you, you come back and, we'll leave it up to staff to prove that you did everything you needed to do. And again, why do we need a commission if that's the level that we want to drop down to? We need to hold everyone to a similar standard. And, if they come back and they have a better plan for water, they've drilled a well or they're doing water catchment and all of the other things that we've required of everyone else, then it's different. And, maybe it should have gone back to staff to be, it was too premature to come to us. But I don't feel like we should have to, we've all said why we didn't want to approve it, and why do we need to re-vote on it? Because a couple of people didn't like our decision. I mean, we probably approve 99% of every application that comes before us. So if we don't approve something, there's a reason for it. And I think it's a good reason. And I don't think we should be beat down to change our mind.
Mike, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
You had yours first.
I'm trying to be respectful of everybody, and let all you guys go first. If you want me to go, I'll go. I feel exactly like Peggy. I don't understand. We had a vote. We said no. They have the right to bring it back. They have the right to go to the plant or the supervisors. But we said no to the plan that they brought before us tonight.
Well, you haven't formally said no to the plan. The no vote was on the motion. What you need to do now is have a motion to deny the permit and then have that motion pass. And then one of the things that is always helpful is to be able to have a full resolution identifying why it's being denied, so that if it is appealed, the Board of Supervisors can then look and see what the Planning Commission's rationale is for denying the permit. And ultimately, if there's litigation, we want to have that record well established in terms of what the rationale was for the action. So I'm not trying to get you to vote for something that you don't want to vote for. I'm trying to get you to pass a motion that reflects the desires and the intention of the commission.
Thomas, you have your hand up.
Mike's before me. I'll go after him.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So I have a question of staff first before another comment or a question we've heard some of the commissioners talk about, rubber stamping or putting things through. Most of the permits that we have put through have been working farms already. Is that correct? They've been growing interim with their state licenses, and they've been harvesting. Is that correct?
We have put an emphasis upon getting the projects with interim permits through. And so a high percentage of what you have seen have been projects that involve pre-existing cultivation and did have interim permits, yes.
Okay. So the reason I put that forth and just making sure about things is this is to march down the road to get our land cleaned up, which is what part of the Cannabis CC MMLUO was all about, was to clean things up, get things in compliance, And, this is to clean up our back areas. We can't always, on the 2.0, that's all made to go towards more major thoroughfares and that, but then we get pushed back unless the neighbors are not minding at all about the permitting, but we get more population areas. So this is 1.0. This is to come under compliance. It's a step in the right direction in my book to go through and get some things accomplished here on cleanup.
Thomas, you're up.
So same thing. I got a question for staff and then I had a couple comments. Are all cultivation covers currently removed from the existing greenhouse structures?
Could you ask that again, Commissioner Mulder? I'm not sure I completely understood.
So like in a greenhouse, you can pull depth inside of a greenhouse. So from your satellite imagery, you don't realize I'm growing a crop, but I really am. So are all the greenhouse plastics off of the greenhouse structures right now to verify via aerial imagery that there's no cultivation taking place?
I can't answer that. Mr. Perchio or Mr. Johnson, can you answer that?
It's not
I believe in the project file there is evidence from, I believe, 2020 showing all the covers have been removed. Current satellite imagery that I had available also showed no covers on any of them. The agent, Mr. Nicoletti, is in attendance and he has hand raised, and I believe he might be better suited to answer that question than myself.
All right.
The reason I asked, can I finish, Chair?
Go ahead, Thomas. I thought you were done.
The reason I ask is because if there was an added condition that all cultivation covers were removed from existing structures until state license was, there was a state license issued, then it would protect the public interest if there's no illegal cultivation possibility from illegal cultivation. That's why I asked the question.
Thank you, Thomas. Melanie, you had your hand up, and then Cliff, I see you just put your hand up. So
I'm willing to wait and hear the answer from, can't remember the name of the person, but the one to answer that question.
Okay. Let's let Cliff go ahead then first and have something to add to it, and then we'll have the applicant.
Thank you, Chair Bongio. My view of this is that the covers are off of the greenhouse, and if you'll allow me, I'll just go ahead and kind of share my screen here, which should be showing you the satellite image, which is from September of this year. And these are the three greenhouses there. If you go back to July, you can see more clearly that it appears that the covers are not on there. I'm sorry, we don't have a August that is available. So I would say that it certainly appears that their covers are not on there.
Let's let the applicant speak now, and then we may have some questions for him. So, Mr. Nicoletti, go ahead. *6.
Okay, thank you very much for taking my comments outside of the public comment period. So currently, I've been working with the property owner in developing a complete set of grading plans for the entire property. Okay, and those plans will basically be completely regraded, stabilized as such. That is one of the main reasons, other than the fact they don't have a permit, that they're not going to be doing anything at all with those existing greenhouses. They currently are not covered.
Okay. Anything else you want to comment to that you've heard?
Yeah, I still had a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Melanie.
Yeah. I think that most of us would agree that, this is what we wanted, legalization, and that this site be restored and cleaned up. The fact that a lot of it is not in compliance, they have to be in compliance at some point. And I really like what Commissioner Mulder said about the greenhouse covers. It is in the report that they are down. They haven't been cleaned up yet, so it's checked no for compliance. So that is something that needs to be done. I think that maybe I'm speaking only for myself, but what I thought the main concern was for the people who voted to deny the permit, the project, was that the feasibility of the well had not been established. And it's difficult to evaluate a project sometimes if we don't even have a well report, or if nothing has been drilled yet. So like I said before, I'd be willing to send it back or put a condition that it be brought back with a preliminary well report.
Melanie?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have my hand up and I don't see any others, so I'm going to still have my reservations on this one. I don't think there's enough information, but I'm willing to go along if we can come up with some wording. I'm going to kind of rebut what Mike brought up. Under the first ordinance, the idea was to get them out of the hills, and that's what's not happening. We're not getting them out of the hills. We're making concessions and allowing them to stay out there or even go back out there. And I think that we're doing a misjustice or disjustice to the people of Humboldt County by doing that. The second ordinance made it real clear that they could go out there, but they had to go through a different process. So I still have reservations on this one, where it's located, the road, etc. Go ahead, Thomas.
This question is for staff in regards to the wells, and I believe this happened at a project sometime in the last 6 months. Is the well could not be drilled until the project was approved to meet CEQA, as the county was sued over a large project in the Dyerville Loop McCann area because they approved the well before the project. Maybe my memory's crazy, but that's kind of what I remember. We may see more projects with the well as part of the package.
Yeah, if through the chair. That is a bit of a sticky situation, is that before the well can be permitted, current case law is militating towards having CEQA completed. And so one of the things that is in litigation against the county right now is that we piecemealed an application because the wells were drilled before the project was approved. And so it may be possible to have a test well drilled to demonstrate that the well can produce sufficient water to meet the needs of this application. But otherwise, really, CEQA is needed prior to approving the well, or prior to drilling the well.
Natalie has her hand up. Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that those are allegations. I don't think we necessarily did those things. But.
Thank you.
Well, what we were asking for was a test, a test, a feasibility test, not a full-on well.
Well, what other thoughts does the commission have? Does somebody want to propose some motion that meets what the director said? It seems, to me, it just seems like we're going back against what we voted, but it's
well, Mr. Chairman, this is Brian. The director's comments immediately after our vote were that there were two paths. We could make a motion of an intent to deny the project, and that basically there was no circumstances under which this was going to move forward, or we could continue it to allow them to bring whatever information the commission feels like we're missing to be able to feel comfortable with making the required findings. And so, given that there are two paths, I would be more comfortable with path 2, moving to continue it to a date uncertain to allow staff and the applicant to continue to work together to provide us information such as a test well, so that the facets of the project that are not currently functioning, such as the water, can be demonstrated to be feasible or not, so that we can make decisions such as what amount of water storage is appropriate, if rain catchment would be needed, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. If you make that a motion, I'll second it.
So moved.
So seconded.
only a second. Thomas, you have your hand up.
I'm going to go back to page 7 in finding number 1. It talks about estimated annual water usage is 195,517,000 gallons. Irrigation water will be sourced from a proposed groundwater well. Existing available water storage will be a minimum of 18,000 gallons in a series, disconnected. If the applicant can demonstrate the well is disconnected from surface waters, if the well is connected to surface waters, the applicant is required to install 195,517 gallons of water storage prior to cultivation. So I'm just trying to figure out how that finding on page 7, if you read it for yourself, doesn't take care of the concern of the well feasibility. But maybe I read it differently.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second out there. So is there any further discussion on that? All right.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Thomas there. That's part of the condition that we had in our recommendation. So I still don't see why that motion that we have right now is any different. That's part of that original recommendation.
Well, we have a motion and a second out there, unless
I'm just commenting. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, unless the motion or the second want to pull down their motion or second, we're going to have a vote on that motion and the second.
I think the issue is that we don't know if the well will produce, and so there are no contingencies.
Water catchment, they have to bring in storage.
Huh? Yeah, so Laura, I'd like a roll call vote on that.
Alan Bongio,
No.
Thomas Mulder,
No.
Mike Newman,
I'll vote yes, because this will bring it back with some more information.
Peggy O'Neill,
No.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Melanie McCaver.
Yes.
Bye.
motion fails. We have a tie vote. So
you could try to, maybe Mr. Mulder wants to try to do a separate motion. Otherwise, I would offer you a motion.
go ahead, Thomas, and then we'll hear what the director has as well.
So I'm not going to try to be a wordsmith because the director does much better at getting motions there. I just want to, I'm really, really cautious of a test to well because I don't know how that covers CEQA if the project isn't approved or not. I don't know CEQA. I'm pretty illiterate, still learning. But I just want to remind the commissioners, condition 5 on page 18 takes care of the water issue as well. If you read that as well as the findings. So maybe add a condition, that all cultivation covers will be removed and, say maybe 25% water storage. I really don't know, but I'll leave it there.
All right, Director, let's hear your thoughts.
So I would, if somebody wants to make this motion, I would offer this language. That you adopt a motion of intent to deny the permit. Direct staff to come back on November 4th with a resolution addressing the fact that there is insufficient information to demonstrate that there is sufficient water to conduct cultivation on this property. And that there are areas of environmental law that the site is in violation of, which have not been cleaned up. And anything else that somebody would want to add, and then continue it to November 4th.
I would offer that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Brian?
I'll second.
Motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? Okay, Laura, a roll call vote, please.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
No.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Thomas Mulder,
No.
Alan Bongio,
I go with yes on this one.
Melanie McGaver,
Yes.
It appears that this one passes 4-2. So the director will bring us back something on November 4th. Thank you, Director, for helping us on that one. Thank you, everyone. That was a lot of discussion. It was good. All right. That brings us to item number 6, which is J&R Ranch conditional use permit and special permit in the Willow Creek area. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. This is J&R Ranch in the Willow Creek area. You can see on the image on the left, Willow Creek is approximately 8 or 9 miles to the north.
No image.
Sorry?
There's no image. This is just your cover page. There you go.
Oh, there must have been a delay. You can see Willow Creek in the north on the image on the left and the location of the parcel, approximately 8 or 9 miles to the south, outside of the large contiguous tract of Six Rivers National Forest. The screen on the right, you can see the parcel. It's located on either property is on straddling Friday Ridge Road. There's 2 cultivation areas or 3 cultivation areas, all located on the western side of Friday Ridge Road, adjacent to a permitted well. And you can also see some disused in-stream pond, historic point of diversion on the right side of Friday Ridge Road, associated with these old skid trails. So this project is for 14,000 square feet of existing outdoor light depth. There's no artificial lights used. Irrigation water is solely sourced from a 290-foot deep groundwater well, and there's 11,500 gallons of storage. Water usage is estimated at 240,000 gallons per year. And electricity for drying and processing is provided by up to 5 on-site generators located in noise containment sheds. There is an initial statement of water diversion on the eastern portion of parcels, but these are no longer used for irrigation. Here you can see that same image again on the right and a little bit more detail on the left. And you can also see now several historic gorilla groves located on the other side of the road. These are all to be retired, remediated, because all cultivation has been relocated to this existing graded area on the left. There is a nursery, which we have conditioned to reduce from 2,900 square feet existing to just 10%. The site management plan has been conditioned to implement all the recommendations in that plan. And the remediation as described in a Gorilla Grow remediation plan prepared by Green Road Consulting is conditioned to be implemented, which will clean up all those Gorilla Grow sites. In addition, there are bare soils to be covered, installed, and seeded, and monitoring reports to be prepared. And there are 7 historic stream crossings on that old logging road that used to access those Gorilla Grows. There is a CDFW Lake and Streambed Alteration Agreement that has been signed and finalized for the decommissioning of those 7 stream crossings. So it is the staff recommendation that the applicant has submitted evidence in support of making all the required findings for the approval of the conditional use permit. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the evidence.
All right, is there any questions for staff on this one from the commission? Can you minimize your screen by chance? All right, seeing none, I will open this up for public comment then. Let's see if there's any public that wish to speak on this. 7429, go ahead.
Hi, this is Roby Tenorio. Besides being concerned about the well, I'm wondering what's up with 5 generators for a 14,000 square foot grow, which is described as outdoor. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Kent, 7454.
Same question as the prior speaker had. We're talking about a heck of a lot of generators. It doesn't sound like it's that much use. I just do not understand why that many would be. The more generators you have, the more chance you have of fire going. My understanding is allegedly there was something related to a generator that caused the fire up in the Willow Creek area up there. I don't know whether that ever was brought forward or if that was a legal grow or if that was true or not. But the more you have out there, the more chances you have of spillage, more chances you have of malfunctions, more chances you have of unattended generators running and not having correct thing. The other thing I did want to make mention, Councilor Natalie Duke, that was some pretty interesting testimony that you tried to circumvent there, but didn't happen. Anyway, I did also wish to make comment on this or any other project. I think you may find it would be improper for someone to vote in affirmative of a project and then recommend to give you legal advice to somebody to go appeal. Just thought I'd mention that to you as far as general processes go. In this particular project, I hope no one will go ahead and vote no and then tell them to go appeal to the suit. That doesn't make sense. But I do. All of these they're out there in places where they probably don't belong. They belonged as guerrilla grows because they were circumventing the process. And now you just got to keep moving them back in the thing, allowing 6 generators to go. And it's very troublesome when you have, rather than storage, people seem to find a backdoor way to circumvent having forbearance and storage by putting in a well. That just seems to be wrong. It seems to be not the intent of what the general outlook from the public is regarding storage and forbearance, and these seem to be contradictory. And it's very irritating to see this kind of loophole to be allowed for all these people to not forbear as they should be and go ahead and go ahead and put in brand new wells, a new project. And that's a general overall comment on all the wells that keep getting slammed in here to circumvent the forbearance process. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this project.
Thank you. Any other public that wish to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and bring this back to the commission. What are the thoughts of the commissioners? Peggy, go ahead.
I would just like staff to respond to the, the comments that were made about the 6 or 7 generators and why they're needed and whether or not you've taken a look at that.
It is a question I have, Peggy, and from this image on the site plan is all the evidence. Unless Dante Ham or the applicant are online, I can share my screen once again really quickly.
Go ahead.
Here you might be able to see that they are 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, and a 6.5 kilowatt, and a 7 kilowatt. So they are on the lower side. There's only one over here next to the well. Presumably that's for pumping the water into the storage tanks and to irrigate. The others are all over by the existing shed, which is presumably used to power, lights for working and fans. There was no mention of dehumidifiers. So why they have so many generators is unclear based on the evidence that was submitted.
Melanie, you had your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I was going to ask about the generators as well. Maybe we could condition that to lower it to 2 or 3. But I will say that I really appreciate the staff including so many conditions that are necessary for this project. And I'm really satisfied with the SMP and all of the other conditions that are in there in terms of water resources and remediation of the site. Thank you.
Thomas.
So in regards to the generator, I mean, there's many people that use multiple smaller generators and they try to only use one small generator and keep another one for backup, because you get, even with pure gas in Humboldt County, they get a bad batch and then your carburetor's out, small engine repairs backed up in Humboldt County. I'm not the applicant, but I'm just telling you what I've seen out there. And when we talk about unattended generators, you'd be amazed at how many unattended 150 kW plus generators are out there hooked up to multiple thousands gallons of diesel that's unregulated. So when we talk about generators, let's talk about real generator use.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Any other questions or thoughts? Anybody want to make a motion on this one? Everybody go at once. Go ahead, Thomas.
I'd like to adopt a resolution which does the following: finds that the commission has considered the addendum to the adopted mitigative negative declaration for the commercial medical marijuana land use ordinance, CMM LUO, as described in section 15164 of the State California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA Guidelines 2. Make all the required findings for approval of the conditional use permit and special permit and approve the JNR Ranch conditional use permit and special permit recommended by staff subject to the recommended conditions.
Thomas, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, Laura, I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Thomas Motor,
Yes.
Alan Bungio,
Yes.
Melanie McCaver,
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Laura. All right. So that brings us on to item number 6, right? Yeah. 7. And 7 was continued. Do we need to know? Oh, okay. So this one is just, so Humboldt's own incorporated special permit. What was that? In Petrolia.
So I move to continue it to November.
No. This one isn't getting continued.
Oh, it's not? Oh, I have it on my notes too.
It was F7, not E7. The next section. So thank you, Director. Sorry about that. So a staff report on Humboldt's own special permit.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alec Barton. I'm a planner with Harrison Associates, and I'll be presenting this project. This project is being processed under the Commercial Cannabis Land Use Ordinance, CCLUO 2.0. The project is located at 702 Chambers Road in Petrolia. It's zoned agriculture exclusive and special building site, and the general plan land use designation is agricultural general. The parcel is approximately 37 acres in size. The applicant is seeking 2 special permits. One permit would cover existing cultivation on site, which is 24,800 square feet, as well as the proposed addition of another 9,800 square feet. The other permit would be for the retirement, relocation, and remediation program, which would relocate cultivation from another site, and that would total 30,200 square feet. The RRR program is intended to incentivize retirement of grows on sensitive lands, and it does allow the relocation and expansion of cultivation on appropriate sites. All told, the proposal is for 64,800 square feet of outdoor cultivation. Plants are currently proposed to be propagated in a 9,984 square foot nursery area. The source of irrigation is an on-site permitted well. The depth to first water is 18 feet. The depth to static water level is 27 feet. Total drawdown is 133 feet, and the estimated yield is 20 gallons per minute. These figures are from an August 11th, 2017 measurement of the well, and the information is included in the well completion report, which was filed with the Division of Water Resources. The applicant anticipates using 540,000 gallons of water for the project, which equates to about 8.3 gallons per square foot of cultivation area. There are 7,500 existing gallons of water storage on the site, and the applicant has proposed an additional 60,000 gallons of storage through the installation of 12 5,000 gallon storage tanks. Power is provided to the site by Pacific Gas and Electric. Here is a site map showing the location of the cultivation areas. There are two areas with a collection of greenhouses in each area: the propagation area, the proposed water storage, and then the existing well. Staff would recommend several conditions of approval be applied to this project, which would include the corrective actions identified in the site management plan and LSAA. The remediation plan was prepared to address the dismantling and restoring of previous cultivation sites. And so the applicant would be conditioned to follow the conditions within that document. The propagation area or nursery area needs to be reduced to 6,480 square feet, which would be 10% of the cultivation area. After analyzing all available documentation for this project, staff has found that the project is consistent with the impacts identified and adequately mitigated in the environmental impact report. The project as conditioned results in no significant adverse environmental effects beyond those identified in the EIR. And staff would recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to allow Humboldt's Own to cultivate 64,800 square feet of outdoor cannabis cultivation at this site. I'm happy to address any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead, Thomas.
I remember this project well because this was my first project on the commission and or this site, if I remember correctly. And I'm curious as to why all the stuff in the site management plan hasn't been fixed yet, or am I confusing multiple projects together? Because I think about February of this year, we approved the existing, and there is a serious issue with the well because of the water level. And then there was a bunch of drainage issues that they were supposed to fix and gravel the road. So I'm just curious why, if those aren't done, we're bringing back more cultivation.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the other project or projects that may have been approved at this site, so I don't know that I could answer that question.
Through the chair, Commissioner Mulder, I suspect you're thinking of another site that was operated or is operated by the same applicant in the same general area. That was the one where there was a rainwater catchment pond proposed, and if you recall, it was right behind the Humboldt County Public Works, basically truck equipment yard. And there was the road on the west side that needed to have some improvements done. And I think, if I recall correctly, was that your motion that was made to require that road to be to have some improvements on it. I believe that's what was heard in February, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I must have got a picture. My memory was triggered by a picture I saw from a roadway, so that's what triggered my memory. So, sorry, maybe I'm confusing them. My apologies.
Anybody else have any questions for staff before we open this up to the public? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open this up to the public for comment. And the first one is 7454. Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, the concern that was mentioned by Mr. Mulder is a concern of mine. When you have a water standing in your well at 20 feet, there's a very good chance that it's hydrologically connected to some other surface flow. And so this kind of thing, my understanding is we do have on staff now. We were able to procure a licensed person capable of assessing these hydrological connectivity. And so rather than having a condition where your staff makes a determination, the only member that you have access to, I believe, is a person with LACO, and I believe that's a hydrological engineer. And these projects should be assessed, or they should be conditioned to that person now available, the resource be put to work, and that determination be made. Otherwise, the continuous negative effects upon our water resources in Humboldt County, although it's wonderful right now, it's raining, but again, we will be cycling back to drought, and we do need to protect the watersheds. And so that's something I request that you maybe ask staff or delve into a little bit more. regarding your ability on these projects that seem to be quite obvious to even a layman to need a little further assessment, that be done. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next caller, 7429. Go ahead, 7429.
Hi, this is Roby, and this is a huge grow. I mean, this is really quite big, adding in those RRRs, and for it all to be dependent on a well is very concerning. The property sits between Mill Creek and another creek that are very close to their confluence with the Mattole River. The Mattole River is just a couple parcels over. It's quite close, and it's baffling to see staff accept the claim that this well is not hydrologically connected to surface water. And the reason they're saying it is because the well driller said that. And I'm sure that Mr. Fish is very good at his job, but I'm wondering if Humboldt County really wants to base their decisions on the well driller and this not being hydrologically connected. Also, it's saying they're going to have 15 employees, and this is a major impact on our roads. And where will these employees be traveling from? And it's just huge. And just for you to consider, this is another site by the same applicant, and that's considered a big industrial grower, not a mom and pop. So this is just really too big and too much on a well that is questionable. Thank you.
You. Next caller, Prairie Moore. Was Bonnie next? I apologize, Bonnie. You were next. The hand thing was in the way, so I apologize. Go ahead, Bonnie. 7108.
Hi. Thank you. I want to repeat what Roby just said. On my list, I was concerned about the roads and the workers. And in the past, when I've asked, where are all these workers going to be coming from? And I haven't ever gotten any answers. So you've got these multiple big industrial grows with all these people. Petroleum is, way out there, and I don't know what kind of road it is to here, and where are all those workers? How many miles are being traveled every day for this? And the well, I also have questions about that. So the well workers, yeah, and determining, I guess it could be a conflict of interest of the well driller himself being the one that's saying whether it's connected or not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now, the next caller's Tisha Machete.
Evening, Commission. I know we're running a little bit late on this one. I know we're towards the end of the agenda. Everyone's pretty tired here. We've come back to this hearing because there was some concerns about the well, the last hearing, in which Prairie Moore has prepared some information to present tonight. There have been additional supplementals provided in the agenda packet, or at least they should have been. I know there was some reference to some items that had not been attached to the agenda. Hopefully that got resolved before tonight's hearing. First and foremost, Jason Goforth is a client of ours, Matt Goforth. They're both clients of ours. And, I just kind of want to attest to, some of the things that I've witnessed on this particular site. This particular site is right off of the main road. The road is heavily traveled by workers for illegal cannabis operations and legal cannabis operations. I don't believe that should be any concern about the road, considering The evaluation checked out, considering just, the access point. I don't see that to be an issue. I'm not really sure why that's being brought up. To attest to what's going on with the well. Originally, the site had wells, historical wells that were not documented wells, and partly probably due to either the well driller or the time frame that they were drilled. And so this particular applicant did hire Fish Drilling to come in and was very clear with them that they needed a well to meet depth that increased their chances of utilizing groundwater. And I do hope that the information that Prairie Moore shares with us tonight from their hydrogeologist will kind of resolve that question and concern. And I just kind of want to speak a little bit to the character of these people, because before they were our clients, they were actually colleagues of mine. I'm very familiar with how they operate, and I really could not think of anyone that conducts business more ethical than the Goforth family. And so I guess I kind of take it a little bit personally that these people are being singled out. I see it a lot with a lot of projects, and I see, the community grasping at straws to kind of find more reasons to try to stall out projects. And I've also seen a lot of projects approved and overlooked a lot of really critical environmental and impact details. I think we're all pretty frustrated. We're pushing year 6 now, and we really like to see this resolved. So hopefully we can do that tonight with Prairie's testimony. Thank you.
Next caller, Prairie Moore.
This is Prairie Moore. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Having trouble unmuting. So I work with Natural Resources. We did the biological and site management plan, wetland delineations for this site. And just to clarify on the well, the applicant did hire David Lindberg, who's an engineering geologist, and he did do an analysis of this well. And he did determine that it was not connected to surface waters, and it is not connected to neighboring wells. So it is drawing from deep in a subsurface aquifer. And that report should have been included with the information that was given to the commission. So hopefully you all saw that staff didn't just make this determination. It was not just made on the well driller's report. There was an actual engineering geologist that did a study for it. So I hope that kind of clears up some of the question about the well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public that wishes to speak on this one? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and bring this back to the commission. Any thoughts or questions? I have a question if nobody else has one. We've hammered on the water pretty good. One thing that caught my, this is more a question, not so much about this project per se, but on the road evaluation, it was done by an engineer, which I think is great. It said that the driveway meets a category 2, and I thought that we had to meet a category 4 road for commercial grows under the ordinance 2. So maybe I'm just getting clarification here.
So there's a difference between a road and a driveway. And so a driveway does not have requirements.
But what would be the difference between a driveway and a private road once it went off of the county road?
So a driveway is just serving the site.
Okay.
And a category 2 driveway is a pretty darn good driveway.
It doesn't appear to not work from the pictures and such. I just want some clarification on that. Thank you. All right. Thomas, you have your hand up, and I see Melanie has hers up as well.
Melanie is before me.
Go ahead, Melanie.
Thank you. And generally, I think this is a good project. It's a remediation project. The water storage is a little low for the size. And So I was wondering how everyone else felt about requiring some rainwater catchment as a condition. That's all.
Thank you. Thomas, let's get back to that question.
So, couple of things. I've paid for quite a few wells drilled, and the well driller, I mean, I'm not a geologist or anything like that, but I'm just looking. If you look at the well completion report on 104, they only went 3 feet into Siskin formation. Before that, they were fractured sandstone, and I've never seen it only like 3 feet going into that rock formation. I don't know. I see that, you know, the first water depth at 18 feet, but then they blanked it all the way down 0 to 140 feet. They sealed it with bentonite the first 20 feet, but the formation's only being 3 feet into that Franciscan shale is alarming from what I've been told by the old timers, but I'm an uneducated person, so I'm just bringing up something. And piggybacking on Chair Bongio's concern about the roads and driveways, they do still have to meet fire safe regulations, especially if they're having 15 employees. Is that correct?
Is that it, Thomas? Thank you. Melanie, your hand's still up. Is that just left up or?
Just left up.
Okay. So is there any other questions or thoughts on this one? I agree with Melanie's comment about water storage. I could see that this project should possibly have some of that included in it, but the rest of you think?
Well, one issue is that they don't have to forbear. And so even if we're requiring water catchment, I guess we wouldn't really know if they felt it necessary to use it. And so might want to look at the forbearance. It's another option.
Thomas, I see you got your hand back up. Are you good? Nope. Okay. So what are the thoughts then? Is that you, Mike, you putting your hand up, or go ahead, Peggy?
This is for Mr. Ford. Can we, if they do have a well that is indicating on paper that it's adequate, can we also ask that they do forbearance?
You can condition the project. The conditions should relate to some identified concern that needs to be somehow addressed. So if you find that the well is not an adequate source of water, that would be a reason to do rainwater catchment and require water storage.
But there's not really any indication that that's necessary by looking at the report, other than just individual concerns or the speaker's concerns from the community, or just, I mean, if it turns out they don't have enough water, they're going to do something quickly, because that's a lot of grow to not have water. So they'll be forced to have to switch to catchment if there's not adequate water. I mean, and you know, the conditions that we're in, you never know. I had a well that served my house, and there was one little earthquake and my well was gone overnight. And we've had that also happen with a well in Recwa, which was a very good producing well. And after the earthquake, it didn't work. And so we had to do something quickly. So, you know, if people were smart, I think they'd want catchment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thomas, you have your hand up.
the water storage is a sticky situation. But for the existing is the existing, but technically some new cultivation going in there. But what my notes of what the CCLUO says about water sources and what is in the CCLUO are two different things. So, but in the ordinance, you can't require forbearance, but you could condition it. And it could, I don't know. I'll just say where it lies is new cultivation. It would be nice to see. I mean, I do hear the environmental concern of some sort of storage, maybe not 100%. Existing cultivation, that's already included in the baseline. From an environmental standpoint, that's kind of where I see it. So I don't know what information that gives you, but
I have a question I think this will be for the director. I'm looking at the engineering geologic well hydraulic isolation report. I don't really, know what this is. And I know Mr. Lindbergh, I've worked with him before. I'm not questioning his ability, but I've been under the impression that we did not have anybody in our area that was qualified to do this kind of analysis. Now, maybe he is. I'm not really questioning that. I'm just saying I've heard differently that we didn't have anybody around here. And I don't know what you exactly, but we keep hearing this term hydraulics, and that we try to find, you've said that you've tried to find them to come to the county or that could work for the county, and you can't find them. So I'm kind of, just because somebody says they can do it, are they qualified to do it? I don't know. I know it sounds like I'm questioning them, and I'm really not. I just contradictory things is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have some things to say on that, but I do see Mr. Johnson's hand up, so I'm going to let Cliff take the first shot at this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Director Ford and Chair Bongio. I just thought I would chime in because I know I have mentioned that at some Planning Commission meetings. And that was related to the direction that I believe the commission was headed in on some projects to require a hydrogeologist. And so that's really, that statement and the statements that I made have been referenced to a hydrogeologist, which is different than an engineering geologist. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And then I do want to clarify that we do have a hydrogeologist working with us on doing the well analyses. They're under contract to do that. They are not under contract to operate as staff to review every cannabis application that I think a member of the public mentioned. So one of the things I know is probably not real satisfactory for the commission right now, but we are working at getting better information for the commission relative to what are the impacts of using wells, where are wells potentially a concern if they are, and to then start to develop parameters for permitting wells.
Is there anybody else that has questions? All right. Where do we want to go with this one then?
How would people feel with moving to approve the project as recommended by staff, but adding one condition that the water requirements for the new square footage of cultivation come with it with 50% of the water requirements come with some sort of rainwater catchment or water storage?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll ask.
Question. I couldn't unmute fast enough. Regarding that, Commissioner Mitchell was mentioning, the new grow area is 9,800 square feet. Is that correct?
I would leave it to staff to calculate the exact number, but in concept, I'm talking about requiring water storage for the new component that's presented in the staff report at 50% of the water needs for the new.
And that's what I'm trying to ask.
Would that be for the new and for the special permit for the transfer, the triple R transfer?
No, just the new. And you guys can have different opinions. That's just where I came out, and I'm trying to test a motion here.
Maybe we could triple R, the special permit and the new, because the new is only 9,800 and the special permit's for 30,200. And then they have an existing 24,800 that could use the well without storage.
I'd be supportive of that.
And I'll second it again.
They clarified what my question was, the triple R, they're classifying that as new as well, so my question's no.
On this. All right. Roll call vote.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Melanie McGaver,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Alan Bongio,
Yes.
Thomas Mulder,
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. All right, that takes us on to item number 8. Conditional use permit and special permit in the dental area. Take a staff report, please.
Hello, commissioners. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. My name is Max Hilken. I'm presenting the Mad River Family Farms LLC use permits and special permit. The presentation I'm providing tonight will cover 3 separate existing outdoor cannabis cultivation operations occurring across 3 adjacent and contiguous parcels, which are operated by the same applicant. The proposed projects in front of you tonight include a conditional use permit for 23,640 square feet, another conditional use permit for 26,160 square feet, and a third conditional use permit for 13,901 square feet. All of this is for existing outdoor cultivation. Processing activities will occur within a 2,400 square foot structure, which is located on APN 208-221-016. Up to 10 people can be expected on site during peak operations per site. Power is sourced from a mix of solar and 2 generators at each site. Here I have the resource utilization broken down, kind of color coded, similar to the last slide for the permit. Here we have water for irrigation in general is sourced from 2 separate wells and a 275,000 gallon rainwater catchment pond, The first permit utilizes 130,000 gallons of water with on-site storage capacity of 1,550 gallons within a hard-sided tank. Next project, 11728, utilizes 250,000 gallons of water with on-site storage capacity of 50,400 gallons within hard-sided tanks. And the last project, 11730, utilizes 160,000 gallons of water with on-site storage capacity of 110,000 gallons within hard-sided tanks, and an additional 275,000 gallons in the rainwater catchment pond. In totality, projects estimate 540,000 gallons of water is required annually, and the total storage equates to 437,950 gallons, which allows the applicant to store up to 81% of the total annual water use estimated for the projects. The project is conditioned to require the applicant to set in place a contingent easement for the shared water use of these projects. Again, to reiterate, the shared amenities between these projects do include water storage, bathrooms, chemical storage, and the processing location that was described in the 2,400 square foot building. Access to the site is via a private access road, which is identified in the road evaluation attached as main road, from River Road, which extends to the Humboldt Trinity County line. That's all the way to the right of this picture there. Road evaluation was performed by DT Engineering that concluded the private access road and River Road can handle the expected and cumulative.
Hey, Max, can you hold up for a sec?
Holding up, sorry.
We're back. We lost audio, but it's back, so go ahead.
Okay. Did you hear the RMA Association condition?
No.
Okay. So I'll just start at road evaluation was performed by DTN Engineering that concluded the private access road and River Road can handle the expected and cumulative traffic safely. And conditions included in the project require the applicant to take steps to either form or join a road maintenance association for the maintenance of the access roads to the project site. Public comment was received on this project. The public comment was not in opposition to the project. In fact, the commenter did describe that they were in favor of the project. They simply expressed three primary concerns related to the project use. Concern one being trucking flammable fuels and materials on the access roads. Concern two, noise and light attenuation measures. And item number three of their concerns is moving entirely to solar will benefit the environment. So that was a suggestion for the project that the generators be not utilized in favor of full solar. Staff did respond to the commenter regarding these concerns, and to date, the applicant has installed a solar system at one nursery greenhouse, which eliminates the need for a generator at that location, and is currently working on a solar system at the two cabin greenhouses, parcel APN ending in 015. Both wells on the properties have solar pump systems utilized, and their personal residence cabin also runs on solar currently. And as note, this project is conditioned to adhere to standard noise and light attenuation measures. And again, a road evaluation report was performed indicating that the road does can safely accommodate the proposed projects, both these projects and the projects that are known that take access off this road. This slide is showing an aerial image of the cultivation areas on this project parcels. Planning staff does recommend the Planning Commission find that the Commission has considered the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration, make all the required findings for the conditional use permit and special permits, based on the evidence in the staff report and approve the Mad River Family Farms LLC project subject to the recommended conditions. That concludes my presentation, and I'll return the screen back to you.
Do any of the commissioners have questions? Peggy.
So do they have alternatives to solar? Can they also go with hydro or wind? If, because I found in some of these areas, solar is not going to be everything that you need it to be unless you have PG&E to back it up. So can they propose alternatives to solar as long as they're renewable?
I haven't spoken with the applicant at this time regarding possible alternative renewable energy sources other than solar.
Okay, it's just something that, we're putting in a solar system right now for a few houses, and they're very, very expensive, and they don't work unless you have batteries or a PG&E pole. So if they do have water resources that they can't use for the cannabis, but they might be able to use for hydro, I think that as long as they come back with a suitable plan, we should be open to alternative renewables.
The director would like to.
Commissioner O'Neill, that is a good idea, and we certainly can allow alternatives that are renewable to the solar if those are more feasible.
And sometimes you have to have more than one. I mean, during the winter, the hydro works great, but not the solar. And, during the summer, the hydro doesn't work, but the solar works. So, you have to be pretty inventive.
I have a question for Max.
One of your comments
on your presentation was that the road did meet approval standard, but I'm reading right on the cover and the bottom is checked and says the entire road segment is not developed to the equivalent of a road category 4 or better. The road may or may not be able to accommodate the proposed use, and further evaluation is necessary. Part B is to be completed by a civil engineer, and there is a David Nicoletti did sign this, but it's kind of contradicting what you said and what it says here. So I just want some clarification. Is the road
good or is the road not good? Because
6.6 miles.
Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, the checkbox is a standard format used for all road evaluation projects. The report does go on, as indicated by David Nicoletti, that the inclusion or adherence to the recommendations, road improvements that are outlined in the would indeed make this road and allow for the accommodation of expected traffic, both from this project and known projects that also gain access off these road segments.
Thank you. Any other questions before I open this up to the public? Seeing none, I will open this up for public comment. So we have the first one is Tisha Machete. Eddie. Are you there? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, hi. This is Megan Moody. I'm the owner of Mad River Family Farms. So I just wanted to be available for any questions you may have. I also wanted to let you know that there have been some upgrades on the water storage this past year. So on parcel 16, there's actually 15 5,000 gallon water tanks for a total of 75,000 gallons of water storage on that property. And There's been some upgrades on the other parcels as well, but that is the most substantial improvement. There was also a $50,000 grant from Project Trellis that was granted to the road for improvements. So the whole road will be, worked on and brought up to standard. If found to not be currently. Also on my parcel, I have a LSA and an NOA with the water board, and I was able to complete 8 items from the LSA this year before the winter cutoff period. So the work done so far on my property, there was a ditch relief culvert that was installed. There was road drainage completed. Stream crossing number 1 and number 3, the culverts were upgraded. Rolling dips number 8, 10, and 11 were completed, and CD number 5 and number 4 were installed as well. So I'm working on the compliance work for CDFW and the water board. So that work will resume in the spring.
Okay.
So any other questions, I'm available. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is MRFF. That was her. Okay, I apologize. Next caller is 7454, Ken.
Ken Swatsky, yeah, I do. I see some really good things happening in this project. I strongly applaud moving toward the solar. I strongly applaud moving toward more water storage. These are the things that we are asking for out there. I didn't, and your guys are breaking up a little bit as far as your transmission goes, at least what I'm receiving. I didn't hear whether there's any kind of ancillary use in this particular project, and if it does fall within 10%, or if they have their own nursery. My understanding is even on contiguous parcels, you can share certain things, but you have to have a nursery license, and I could be correct that this is something that I've heard before, I think from staff, from John Ford there, was that if you have a nursery that's servicing more than one contiguous parcel and has separate permits, then you have to have a separate nursery license. So the question I have here is are there ancillary uses? I just didn't see them in the presentation. It was before me, and again, it was a little bit garbled, so maybe I missed something there. But that's always a concern. And if they do have the ancillary uses, did they fall? And are they all on separate parcels, and do they fall under the 10% procedure that you have, which is still illegal under your not having a CEQA, but that's a side issue. So those are my questions regarding that one. You may wish to ask staff regarding the ancillary or nursery uses and make sure that's in compliance. But other than that, I'm glad to see a lot of the direction this particular project is going.
Yeah. Next caller is 7108, Bonnie.
Hi. I have questions. The water, it says how much is going to be needed, how much in the pond, and then the total water storage is available over the 3 properties. Don't know if that 437,000 plus gallons, that was what someone was talking about adding. I'm concerned about this big of an operation, which you got it's over 70,000 square feet when you include your ancillary propagation, which is 1,424, which is more than the 10% for the 2,701. So I hope you'll change that. Yeah. So great for rainwater catchment, and I'm concerned about the solar with the generator power, because there may not be a whole lot of generator power, solar power in the winter time, and just another grove that is using, and this is very large Oh, and where are the workers coming from? I asked that before for Petrolia. Where are the workers coming from? Where are they going to be traveling from to get out there and then get back to wherever they're getting, whether it's going to be going on every day or what? I think that's an issue that's been overlooked on all these, and I hope this time I'll get an answer. So thank you for hearing me.
Bonnie. Next caller is Tisha McKinney.
Hi there, my apologies. It's not relevant to this project. You guys can circle back around to it, but the project approved, item number 7 was approved incorrectly as in terms of the description. So I think we need to revisit that so we don't have to come back here tonight.
Well, we're going to finish this one first, and we can have that discussion with the director.
Yes, yes, please do.
Look at that, director, while we're all right. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. Is there any questions, concerns, thoughts? All right. I'm just going to plug my concern as the length of the road and the problems that there are with the road. I mean, they couldn't even, with the form that we have, they couldn't even check off that it met a class 4 standard, which is basically a Jeep trail. So I have big concerns with that length of a road, heavy equipment going down it, trucks with diesel, trucks with, just whatever they're hauling going out there. And I don't know. I think the whole idea was to get them out of the hills, and here we are pushing another one back there 6+ miles. Something doesn't add up to me. So that's my thoughts. Thomas, you got your hand up.
I just want to remind you that they did receive that $50,000 trellis grant. So some of those concerns that you're seeing along there, there's $50,000 worth of work. I think I did look at that application at one point in time. I can't remember when I left trellis or not. But it's not going to fix all the problems, the road points, but it's a work in the right direction. And the other thing is hearing how many of the environmental compliance things the applicant has worked towards. I would feel confident that approving these projects, the applicant's going to do.
Just lost you. Thomas, not hearing you.
Hear me now?
Yeah. All of a sudden you just went quiet.
What I was saying is hearing the environmental upgrade work that the applicant has done this year in a downturn market, that they're taking that environmental stewardship seriously. That's my interpretation. I don't have any idea who the applicant is as a person. But just I would feel good faith that they're going to work towards meeting those other standard requirements in that road evaluation assessment.
Thomas. Any other discussion? Somebody want to make a motion on this one then? Everybody seems pretty comfortable with it.
Does it need to be 3 separate motions and resolutions, or can it be all done in one swoop?
You can make one motion for all 3.
So I'd make a motion to approve all 3 of the Mad River family Farms LLC conditional use permits as presented by staff with the recommended conditions of approval as stated in the reports that we've received.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Laura, roll call vote.
Brian Mitchell,
No.
Thomas Mulder,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Melanie McCaver,
Yes.
Ellen Bongio,
No. Motion carries 4-2. So project approved. All right. 9/11. So that brings us to item number 9, the apartment LLC special permit. Oh, wait. Director, did you get a chance to look at item number 7?
We don't know what it is that Ms. Machete is referring to.
So I'll give her the opportunity to speak right now if she wants to bring up the point so the director can see what the issue is.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So one critical detail about this, I know there was a little bit of confusion about the new versus the RR&R. The RR&R is the new. It's now classified under 2.0 because the two parcels were determined to be under one legal parcel, so that got shifted over. But relative to the nursery is actually a wholesale nursery. It is not an appurtenant nursery. The approval's been in place, or excuse me, the proposal has been in place for 6 years now since the origin of the application. So I'd like to see that corrected because it is a very critical detail of this operation. Additionally, when it comes down to rainwater catchment, we have already discussed this option with the applicant. We've discussed it also with NRM, and there are some unique challenges about this particular property. There is a pond on site, and there is a drainage feature that is connected to a creek that runs to the southern border of the property. And we did discuss how we might be able to utilize that pond, line it, and develop it for additional water storage, which would be a really great solution for us. But the only issue that we have with that is how we go about doing that with CDFW. Also, there's some wetlands that were delineated on this property. So everything that's proposed to be developed on the property is outside of those wetland buffers. And we are very limited in terms of any additional area that we can conduct any additional developments. So we kind of need some help from the commission on this as to how we're going to go about doing this. It is something that the applicant does want to do. Hence, we need some solutions on how we can get over these challenges.
So if I could respond to that, I would unfortunately say these are things that should have been brought up before. We didn't notice a commercial nursery as part of the legal description. That's a separate application. And so in order for the commission to take action on that, they would need to rescind the approval, continue it to a date uncertain so that we could amend the application and renotice it.
Well,
the other option is to submit a modification to the application that's already been approved and readdress that.
Yeah, either options I think would be fine. Submitting for a modification, I know that's been coming up a lot lately. We're getting a lot of really unclear direction from planners at the county as to how we're going to approach that. It doesn't really seem to be a priority. So, I'm kind of torn. It's not my project. I can't really make decisions for the applicant, of course. If it were me, I would probably say, let's go ahead and put it out to another hearing so we don't have to deal with the minutia of trying to call a modification hearing. And then the rainwater catchment issue, you know, we like I said, we could really use some solutions as to how we can make that work. And I would definitely look to county planning to maybe offer some suggestions as to how we could work with CDFW to get something like that authorized if we were to disconnect the overflow drainage. And I do believe it's man-made, but I'm not positive on that. And there's some concerns about that. So, I mean, I know that one of the applicant's representatives is here. It is his brother. You know, possibly he could comment.
Ms. Machete, do you realize that this has been approved and you're talking your client out of an approval?
With all due respect, Mr. Ford, my client is concerned that the wholesale nursery is going to be left out of this approval.
It's not in your operations plan. It was not part of the application. It's not something we evaluate.
It was included in the application. If it wasn't included in the staff report, that's a completely different issue.
That should have been brought up long before we got the hearing.
Okay, well, again, with all due respect, okay, this has been a very convoluted project. And since it was outsourced, there was a whole onslaught of other issues that have come up that we have been addressing for months now. So honestly, at this point, your third party is responsible. So you can't stay here and put the onus
Chair,
on
can I
us.
request a point of order because I'm not hearing from the applicant. I'm asking for a point of order. I'm not hearing from the applicant to rescind the project. The nursery wasn't in the notice. So can we possibly move forward? I'm not trying to, I respect the commenter, but it's not, we're way off the agenda in my opinion.
Yeah, I happen to agree with you, Thomas, on this one. I believe the best thing you could do, Ms. McKetty, is get with planning staff tomorrow, next week, whatever, as soon as you can, and work out some kind of a solution to bring it back to us, whatever what works best for everybody. We didn't have that in front of us. Nothing's going to happen tonight. I can tell you that. And
you know what? I appreciate at least that bit of direction. I mean, you know, it is an important factor of the project. It was included in the initial contents of the application, and it was excluded from the staff report because it was outsourced.
Well, it should have been brought up earlier tonight, for one, and second, we're not going to go back into that. So I would set up an appointment and get with who would be the contact person, John? So call and ask for Director Ford or Cliff Johnson. That's what
we appreciate your direction.
All right. Good luck with everything. Thank you for bringing it up, and it'll get resolved, I'm sure. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Thomas, for keeping us on track. Melanie, you had your hand up, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Do we need a motion to move this to a date uncertain or?
No, because there's nothing to move.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already voted on the other one, so.
All right.
Thanks for the question. Though. All right, so we're gonna move on to item number 9. What do you think, Director? It's 9:18. I mean, do you think we should go?
Let's try it.
Okay. There's the answer. The apartment LLC special permit and zoning clearance certificates in the Miranda area. Take a staff report.
My name is Michael Holton. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so can we all see?
Yes.
Okay, and can you see the full screen or is it the one with notes?
It's got notes on its split screen.
It'll be fine. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it'll work though.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, yeah, I just switched the screens really quick. So my name is Michael Holton. I'm going to be presenting for application number 16774. That is the apartment. So the proposed project is 2 conditional use permits. That's one for the use of a non-paved access road without the centerline stripe. The other conditional use permit is for a 5,120 square foot boarding house for employee housing in the AE zone. A special permit for non-flammable manufacturing and infusion, and 2 zoning clearance certificates, one for distribution and the other for offsite processing. Here's the project location. It's in the Miranda area. This is just to kind of give you an idea of where it is. Next up, we have the resources. The water source for the project is a proposed 1 million gallon rainwater catchment pond, an existing well, and a proposed well. It is important to note that the existing well is unpermitted, although there is a condition to either destroy the well, have the well permitted, or have the well permitted, and then both the existing and proposed well are conditioned to have an analysis done by an engineer to confirm that they are hydrologically disconnected from surface waters. The annual water use is approximately 60,000 gallons for this project. The water storage is 32,500 gallons, although 2,500 gallons of that is dedicated for fire suppression, as well as the 1 million gallon rainwater catchment pond. So in total, that's 1,032,500 gallons. And the proposed power source for this project is a mixture of solar and wind. The applicant does propose a generator as an emergency backup. Here is the kind of layout of the employees. So it will be, as you can see, full-time and seasonal. There is some variation there, but total peak employees at any one point should be no greater than 34. Here we have a site map. This is the location of the proposed pond. This is the proposed boarding house. Here is an existing dwelling that is also proposed to be for employee housing, the solar array, and then there are the 2 areas here for distribution, processing, and then manufacturing is in this small building here. So the recommendations from staff are to find the project consistent with the EIR adopted for the CCLUO, make all required findings for approval of the conditional use permits, special permit, and the zoning clearance certificates, and adopt the resolution approving this conditional use permits, special permit, and zoning clearance certificates subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If you have any questions, I will be available.
All right. Any questions? Melanie had her hand up first and then Peggy.
It was up from the last time.
Okay. That's why it was up first. Go ahead.
Could you explain a little bit more about what this project, it's a boarding house, is it bedrooms, is there bathroom facilities for both males and females or whoever's? What does it consist of?
So I don't have floor plans for the boarding houses. From my understanding, it is labor camps are a conditionally permitted use in AE zones. However, I don't believe I have anything that shows a floor plan.
Do they come back later with what they're going to build and get a building permit for that? Or is this it? Is this the permit and they can put in bunk beds and, you know, I just don't even know if it's an inhabitable structure because I don't know enough about it. I mean, is there, for something like that, a square footage per person? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, Michael, I'll try to add that. And,
no, go ahead.
You know, really appreciate Michael stepping in here and taking over for Chris Alberts, who is the assigned planner who is more familiar with it. But him and I did work on that over the last couple weeks with the applicant, actually last couple months with the applicant. And the idea is that this would be basically just like, I think, is it 2 or 3, but residences, you know, with full, you know, cooking facilities, restroom facilities, bedrooms. The issue is that under the zoning, labor camps and employee housing are allowed. Single-family residence for non-employees are actually not allowed beyond the single-family residence that would be allowed there. And so the use type under the zoning ordinance is actually a labor camp. but it is going to function very similarly to typical residences that you would be thinking of.
Thomas, you have your hand up.
Couple of things. This is along the lines of agricultural employee housing. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, absolutely. That is correct. And in fact, agricultural employee housing would be principally permitted. The issue here is that they are for the employees of the cannabis processing and manufacturing, which is actually not considered an agricultural use for meeting those for specifically for being called agricultural employee housing. So it's really more of a use description under the ordinance, but you could, it's not going to function any differently than what you would be thinking of.
Okay.
I wonder if
That's kind of the way I read it.
If I support housing for agricultural workers, I just wanted to know if there was any standards, minimum standards that are required so that people are living in, decent facilities and not just whatever they feel like building.
Sure.
I could.
So
there actually are state standards for ag employee housing.
Thomas, you have your hand.
Yeah, I was trying to finish. I was in the middle of a sentence and I asked my first question. I had a follow-up question to that. So Dyerville, Fruitland Ridge and Dyerville Loop Road, how you access this site. What kind of mitigations to Fruitland Ridge, Eel Rock Road, those roads, is this site going to provide? I have some friends that live over there, and it was quite interesting this summer. I actually stopped at the pullout just past that, what used to be a vineyard that got an acre of new cultivation. You'd sit there at the right time, and I was like, holy cow, this is not the area I grew up as a kid. When you get close to end of shift, it's like a freeway. And lots of areas, the roadways degraded. So this would be a new activity in a heavily overused road that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So speaking from concerns of people that are too concerned to speak, I think it's great, but what are we going to do to mitigate those road conditions?
So it was my understanding that in the road evaluation report that was prepared by Holmesburg and Preston, they assessed the Dyerville Loop Road as 400 vehicles per day, which they did conclude was the road was adequate for that amount of travel. I would also like to point out that it is a possibility that some of the other permitted cannabis grows in the area may elect to use this project for trimming of their cannabis, which may result in a decrease in traffic.
Any other questions before I open this up for public? All right, I'm going to open up for public comment. 7454, Kent, go ahead.
Hate to sound like that proverbial broken record. If I understood staff reports, the hydrological connectivity was to be assessed by an engineer. An engineer is an engineer. You have a geological engineer and you have a hydrological engineer. For those of us who are familiar with such different titles and qualifications, I'd like you to ask staff, as far as clarity goes, is the hydrological engineer, because the other people do not have the ability or and should not be making these determinations as far as hydrological connectivity. If you're a licensed plumber, that does not mean that you can go ahead and put in the sprinkler systems that are used to prevent fires. You have to have the additional qualifications, and this particular category is the same thing. So these kind of clarities really need to happen. It's protecting the public health, safety, and welfare, and the environment, and to have this terms thrown out there that are not applicable without having a qualified person that's got the credentials to make the determinations. Now, I did want to point out regarding testimony that was given regarding water and wells and certification in the supervisor's chamber there. It was noted by the person who had Mr. Fish come in and drill a well right beside the one they had that they seem to be, and I'm not speaking for him, they seem to have the perception that he was not willing to certify a well he didn't drill himself. So again, it was brought forward before that relying upon a well driller who may have a conflict of interest, or someone who's not a hydrological engineer in these circumstances is inappropriate. And I think that the county's going to find themselves in a whole bunch of trouble if they don't start using the experts in the field that are required to do the work and quit winging it or having other people come in, quote unquote, as experts without credentials. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Next caller, 7108.
Hi. I also had some questions about the access in the road and how much traffic. And also says power is going to be solar and wind. I don't know if they figured out. I tried wind energy where I am, but the wind switched directions too much, so it doesn't work everywhere. And the backup generator will be for emergency use only. I'd like to know what is considered emergency use, and if that means just whenever the solars, there's not enough that, so it could be a whole lot of generator use. And if this is new, it has to be renewable energy. There's no generators. Yeah, so, and the workers. Did you say there's going to be 34 people living in this housing on site, or a bunch of those people are going to be going back and forth? And as I asked before, where are all these workers going to be coming from? Driving, just miles. How many miles are they going to be put on the road every day to access this site? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else who wants to comment on this project? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment. I'm going to bring this back to the commission. All right, where are we at? Any more questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
Question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Concerning water resources on page 3, prior to operations, the applicant shall have a licensed geologist or engineer. What can we put in there to make sure that it is somebody that is on the hook for what they determine as to be hydrologically connected?
So I would say that the safest technical expert would be a hydrogeologist.
So can we change that in there?
Or, yeah, hydrogeologist or geologist.
Or geologist?
Hydrogeologist is the best.
Would Mr. Lindbergh, who is a geologist, qualify in that?
In the last one, so yeah.
Well, that's why I added geologist, yes. Technically, a hydrogeologist is probably licensed first as a geologist.
Yeah. And they are licensed exactly to look at the hydro connectivity.
Well, they have a specialization in that.
Is that it, Mike?
That was it, yeah.
Anybody else have questions? Somebody like to make a motion?
I just want to make sure that I felt, because I mean, I've built things before, and so have you, Alan, that who reviews the plans? Like once we approve this permit, do they still have to come back with a set of plans that gets approved that meets the state requirements for agricultural housing? Does that have to be added, or is that something that, and I think it's kind of ironic that we want a hydrogeologist for this project, but we haven't for any others, but that's neither here nor there. But could you explain that just so that I understand?
So to take advantage of, well, to construct a structure, yes, they need to come in and get a building permit from the county. And so we will review it at that time. We will review it for the ability to support 34 employees, which is what they've proposed. So in order then also to meet the qualifications of farm worker housing or agricultural employee housing, they do need to also be approved by Department of Public Health, or in our case, DHHS. And I believe there's also a permit from the California Department of Housing Community Development.
So I feel much better now that you've said that.
Melanie, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I could make a motion. I just wanted to clarify the language for the condition regarding the hydrogeologist. That would be a consultation in regards to the new well, or the director could offer some guidance.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking for the condition to see what modifications need to be made to it.
Number 10, attachment 1, number 10, page 16.
So, yes, thank you, Commissioner Newman. So it says prior to operations, the applicant shall have a licensed geologist or engineer evaluate the existing and proposed well in order to determine if the wells are hydrologically connected to any surface water. So I would strike or engineer, and a licensed geologist actually would be okay, would be good. If you want to take it to the next level, which is a little bit more esoteric and specialized, you could add in hydrogeologist.
And that would be for condition 10?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with just striking or engineer.
How does the commission feel on hydrogeologist versus geologist?
I just think we got to be consistent. We've been flopping all over on this one. So if we start saying hydrogeologist here, we need to say it every time. So.
Right.
I don't see why this project requires a higher standard than other projects we've reviewed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that, but you keep having this discussion.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion and then I guess we can discuss it. So I'll motion to find the Planning Commission has considered the addendum to the CEQA EIR DCLUO pursuant to section 164 of the state guidelines, make all the required findings for approval of the conditional use permit, special permit, and zoning clearance certificates based on evidence in the staff report, and approve the apartment LLC project subject to the recommended conditions, with one modification, that we strike out in condition 10 the word engineer and replace it with geologist.
It's already there. Licensed geologist is there.
Oh,
It's just striking out, we're engineer.
or engineer. Okay, thank you.
Just striking that out.
Okay. Striking out engineer to leave only geologist,
Licensed geologist.
licensed geologist.
I'll second.
A motion is second. Discussion. I see Thomas has his hand up, so. Go ahead, Thomas.
So problem for me, and maybe because this is the area I frequented when I was a kid, and maybe it's because I was shocked at the amount of traffic. I see 400 vehicle trips were assessed for Dyerville Loop Road, but why was Elk Creek Road not assessed in the vehicle trips? Because, I mean, any of you that have been up Fruitland Ridge at the very bottom there, about 3/4 of a mile up, there's a super narrow corner that doesn't have a centerline stripe. And then Dyerville Loop Road, I haven't been out there for a few years, but it hasn't got any wider from what I'm aware. So I just, that's where my concerns are. It's a project that the cannabis industry needs, so I want to support it there, but I just want to make sure that we also are assessing the community needs, and that's driving through a community that was heavily I don't want to say targeted. There was a lot of, you're driving by a lot of households that didn't make it into the regulated part of the side of it. So it's a tough conundrum for me.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second out there. Go ahead, Mike.
So in regards to hydrogeologist versus just a licensed geologist, I believe we're coming back with a discussion on that from our last meeting. Is that correct, Director?
That is correct. We're targeting, and actually we are setting aside the meeting of November 18th to do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now.
We should leave it consistent until then.
What?
We should what? What was that, Melanie?
Oh, we should leave it consistent until that time.
Right, just licensed geologist that's already on there.
Agreed.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Laura, roll call vote, please. We have to continue.
Mike Newman,
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill,
Yes.
Brian Mitchell,
Yes.
Melanie McCaver,
Yes.
Alan Bongio, Thomas Mulder,
Going no, because I'm not seeing road improvement mitigations.
All right. Motion carries 5-1. So that is the last one we're going to tackle for tonight. It's already 9:45. What we do need to do is continue everything under item F, the public hearings, to the next meeting, which is to the November 4th meeting. Do I have a motion to continue items under F to the November 4th?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Laura, roll call.
Chair, are we considering a special meeting just because we literally didn't even get into any of the agenda items that were technically for this meeting of new projects?
Really up to the commission. We have a little bit of the backlog right now. We've got everything that was scheduled for tonight that is now being continued to November 4th. We held back on scheduling anything on November, or a lot of things on November 4th, expecting a lot of tonight's items to be rolled over to November 4th. We're not scheduling anything for November 18th.
I'd say we should keep it where we're at right now, because I think that November 18th is going to be an interesting discussion and might change how we go forward. So keep it status quo for right now. See where that takes us.
And I'm sorry, I will be missing this one.
You know, good for you. I know where you're going to be, so it's all good. So with that, I want to throw out one big thank you to Commissioners Mcguire and Levy. They put a lot of time in to put on the Planning Commission. I forget what the acronym was, but the convention that was here last Friday and Saturday.
Turnout was huge, the content was good.
And I thought they did a great job. Thank you for all your work there. I know Melanie did an awful lot, so that was awesome. So
Thank you.
and that, anybody else have any comments before we? Oh, on the continuance. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So did we have a motion in a second to continue? Yeah, we just didn't have the vote. Okay, so roll call vote, please. Sorry. Trying to do too many things.
Brian Mitchell.
Yes.
Brian, Thomas Mulder.
Yes.
Peggy O'Neill.
Yes.
Mike Newman.
Betcha.
Melanie McGaver.
Yes.
Alan Bongio.
Yes. All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Enjoy. Thanks for staying a little late tonight.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good night.